Let the bass kick.
All sorts of magical content that we're generating here, and I'm gonna edit the footage and stuff from your museum, but
Okay.
yeah, that's gonna go up kind of in tandem with the episode. And I went ahead and hit the big red button. Just no need to sugarcoat it, beat around the bush. What up, everybody? We're back. Well, I'm back, and everybody else is not here. I don't know what to do with my hands. But it's going to be okay, because guess who's with me tonight? Long time in the making, this episode, Mr. Joel Rogers. PDGA number 2175. Whoa. 4-digit PDGA number in the house, guys. It's going to be okay. Calm down. Nobody injure yourselves getting up and turning up the volume. Most of the time it's on your Bluetooth. You can figure that out. Joel, how long have we been talking about doing this?
It's been a little while.
It's been a long time.
But we're in a pandemic, so things are on the pandemic scale for sure.
Yeah, pandemic scale for sure. But, you know, I met you, was it 2018 MCO? I found you standing next to me holding some rarity in your hand, some precious gem.
18, yeah, where was that?
Ravenwood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed up at Ravenwood.
I want to say it was 2018 MCO. I was standing there telling people what to do, bossing people around, as I normally get into doing. And at some point, I realized that there was a gentleman standing next to me. Probably had been there for some time. He was waiting patiently to get my attention, and he was holding a disc. What was that disc?
You're stumping me. I do not remember this. Are you confusing me with somebody here?
No. You came up to. It was. Didn't you came out to MCO at Ravenwood? Right?
I did, and then I played in the second one.
Mm-hmm. But I remember meeting you at that one in 2018, and you came up and we talked for a minute. And you had some kind of really cool collectible disc in your hand that you showed me, and I crapped myself, and we talked about it, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway,
well, you know, I love the plastic and the history and all the rare gems that are out there.
Yep, you clearly do. I'm going to go ahead while we're doing our little preliminaries, and I'm going to put this up here. It's a little slideshow. Everybody can kind of check it out. Some of the stuff that you've got in your collection that we kind of got to go and check out when I was playing. Hey, there's me and you in the staging area, as you referred to it, the man cave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a cave.
Just a cave.
Yeah.
There was you beating the pants off of me by 5 strokes, I believe. 3 or 4.
Home court advantage.
Home court advantage. I did get you in the points challenge, though. There's Joel's signature PDGA number 2175. Man.
I could have been earlier. You know, I went to a tournament, and of course I'm saving my pennies and didn't pay my fee. But the second one, I finally threw it on the bucks and gave Hedrick some money.
And there's the arrow, aka Eagle, that rocked my world so hard that the picture went up upside down.
83. Yep. And so I was lucky enough to get that disc in the Tennessee States. That was the first tournament I ran here in Tennessee, and they said, well, I heard, you know, that there was this new company out there, Champion. It wasn't even Enemy yet. It was just Champion. I sit on my bucks. They sent me a case of those, and that started the Beveled Edge in Tennessee right there that weekend.
And that's an interesting story. A lot of you guys watching the show, you know that Stokely's been on the show quite a bit. We recorded his audiobook here in the Last Cash Podcast Studios, and he's got a lot of stories about the Eagle, the first Eagle, a.k.a. the Arrow, and also the Midnight Flyer, which I'll show this in a second. I'm very excited, but he tells it. He never even said the words Midnight Flyer, and he went straight to the 50 mold, 60 mold,
right.
You know, and telling it what it meant and all that stuff. But I'll just go ahead and show this off right now. I should probably put it on the solo. Look at what I've got here. Oh my God, it's a 50 mold. It's a 50 mold Midnight Flyer when they've added the glow-in-the-dark additive to make it heavier. Whew. I better quit janking it around like that. I'm going to crack it. But man, I'm pretty sure I held one of these in my hands and threw it around like a jerk when I was a little kid. But this is a piece of history right here, guys. It's pretty special. And Joel, in addition to inviting me over to his house to partake of his putter course and his museum and his fine purveying selections of flying disc history, was kind enough to grace the Last Cash podcast with a gift. And so this is going in a place of honor right up there on the rack of discs behind me. And that's going to be a conversation piece for years to come. So thank you very much, Joel.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was really interesting watching the evolution of disc. First we were throwing, G series out in the parking lots, and they weighed 141 or 119. And clearly I liked the 119, when it came out in heavy plastic and they were clean, straight flyers. And then all of a sudden, it evolved into the beveled edge, and the discs that we have today are incredible.
And this was the strategy that led up to the beveled edge and the actual golf discs, because this was when they started trying to make them heavier so that they could withstand more torque and stuff like that, right?
Distance, right? Absolutely. Put more plastic and more weight in there. And they were great flyers. It's fun to play when you're throwing 40 mils, like throwing your putters today.
Right, yeah. And when it was still Frisbee golf.
Right.
So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let everybody at home know a little bit about your background, because you were born here and you went to McGavock High School, correct?
I did. I was born in Donaldson and went to McGavock and went to UT for a couple of years and ended up going back to MTSU. But when I was at McGavock, I carried a Frisbee with me. I played traditional sports, football, basketball, track, but I carried a disc with me and threw it around with my friends and played and enjoyed it. And then after high school, no more traditional sports, so I took a job at Opryland, working night shift, and got off work, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. So me and my buddies went to Donaldson Plaza and threw golf. And at first we were just throwing back and forth, and then they're like, well, I can hit that sign and I can hit that pole, and we made up 18-hole course. And I'm sure many of our listeners have done that themselves, gone out and invented disc golf in their local neighborhood. Well, we did it, and we just kept playing more and more. And I went to UT, and there wasn't really any kind of Frisbee scene up there, so I was kind of desperate. I would come back to Donaldson and meet up with another old
Pull that mic a little closer to your face. You're good.
Come back to Donaldson. There's another old timer, Dave Kessler, was here in Donaldson, and he went to MTSU, and there was a really active club there. So he would come home and, hey, I learned this, and I'd come home from UT, I learned this, and within a couple of years, I was there at Murfreesboro. We started the Ultimate team, Dave and I, MTSU Ultimate, which became the Discroids, and then later the Ultimatics, and then whatever it is today. And that club evolved and continuously still is run. And then there were players here. David Eiler had started the Tennessee States in 1976, and so I heard about that, but I didn't show up till 79. And got there, and there were some actual players: Tom Monroe, Jay Buchelman, Sue Buchelman, Grant Posey, David Eiler. There was some talent in town, and then Tom Monroe, was close, and so he was bringing up the kind of the world class talent of understanding the plastic from California and where the sport was growing, and he started, promoting disc golf. And David ran the Tennessee States for a few years, and then he backed out, and I took over. Me and Kessler took over and ran it, and I ran it for a couple more years, and then Folger took over from me. So I had a little 4 or 5 year run here. We ran one of them at Centennial Park. We ran a Tennessee States at MTSU, and that's where the 83 beveled edge came in. We were on campus at MTSU for that. And then we came back to Centennial Park, and the last year we actually had a White Mountain sponsors, had a nice little cash pool. Back in those days, the Tennessee State was freestyle, golf, distance. Overall, yeah. And that's where my background comes from, an overall player. I started freestyling, and to me, we didn't even have divisions back then. You just went to a tournament. It was a Frisbee tournament. Oh, we're doing what? Okay, accuracy, sure. Distance, okay. Golf, got it, This was pre-baskets, They did baskets 75, but that was only in Oak Grove or something.
Yeah.
The first one in Tennessee was 80. In
Cedars, Lebanon, yeah.
Cedars in 80, yeah.
Well, yeah, we've had Ken Folger and we've had Steve Hardy on the podcast, and they've told a lot of stories about Kessler and Eiler and the early days of the Flying Disc Drive and the overall tournaments, and that was always a big thing. And Stokely goes on about it too, and that it was always like everybody everybody that ever played the overall events loved them, especially for certain ones. Like it was like everybody was playing disc golf, but everybody there was a group of people that loved the freestyle. There was a group of people that loved the double disc court. There were a group of people that loved all these different things. Then of course everybody's trying to throw the distance record and stuff like that. And to me, because obviously I came around and started running and promoting stuff after all of this, but the novelty of that. And I think honestly, in my mind, knowing how events work, at the time, I think it was like, it's almost like if it had started as just disc golf and then come to a place where it was more overall later in its evolution, I think it might have caught on more. I think people today would go nuts over overall or just the different kinds of games that you can do with a flying disc.
Well, first of all, we got to expose people. Golf is incredible because anybody can play. You can take your nephew out. You can take your grandma out. It's really hard to throw an MTA. It's really hard to do freestyle. So,
especially with golf discs, modern golf discs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's exposing people. Now that we have these big numbers in golf and ultimate and stuff, we're starting to get people coming back and playing overall. We had a really nice overall games. WIFDIF is picking it up. And so, Virginia States is coming up. So in 76, we started Tennessee, Virginia, Arizona. Most of the states had that tournament in 76. Tennessee still survives, Virginia and Arizona of those continuously run tournaments. So I'm going to go to Virginia States in September, and we'll do golf and accuracy and freestyle.
They're still doing overall for the states. That's awesome.
In Arizona, last I heard, was still doing freestyle and DDC and overall.
Who's running that one now in Arizona?
Harvey Brandt was, but I've been away for a while, so I'm not sure who's doing it over there. They have a nice club. They got a big golf club there too.
Oh yeah, spinners. And I mean, and just that whole state. I mean, because when I first started playing, the first league I ever played was in Shola City Park. Pete Ulibarri ran it, and so I've got a bunch of friends out there, the Durans, and all that crew, Jack Wood, and
a lot of players came out of there. We had players, from all the states back then. WAMO was pumping money into these state tournaments, and it was the new craze on campus, and so there were just players. I mean, I went to Louisville in probably 79. There's 5,000 people watching us play freestyle in the park. That doesn't happen for anything these days, hardly. So, it's hard to get, any numbers up to that big. And I don't know what Frisbee is. It's a kind of not a mainstream sport. It's not an X Games sport, but it's our sport.
Right.
For one.
Well, I know I'm a person that's given to crazy ideas and fanciful whims, but I can't help but have this spark of interest in my head about bringing back overall.
We got to do it,
especially key elements of it. Because I mean, and to hear Stokely talk about double disc court and how awesome it was,
they're playing at a high level. Juliana Carver's playing again, and there's a big group, the core group that's still playing. So they're having a few tournaments. MTA is wonderful. Playing overall events teaches you a different flight of the Frisbee, because golf disc have their angles, but MTA is completely different. DDC is completely different. The flight of the disc is different. So you expand your seeing of the Frisbee when you watch other sports.
I can't help but imagine that at the very least, you're going to have a more complete understanding of the physics behind the flight of a flying disc.
Right, and just the throws and the shape of throws. Now, golf teaches you a lot of shapes, because of the lines you got to throw. But
sacred geometry.
But they're different in DDC, throwing it to that back corner. And it's fun. They're games. We all got in the Frisbee for one thing, because we loved the flight of the Frisbee. Saw it flying and went, wow, that's magical. And I want to do that. And I want to do that further or off a mountain. We loved watching it fly. And all the overalls, you get to fly the Frisbee a lot, and catch it.
Yeah, right. Sometimes both.
I'm a big fan of catching the Frisbee.
Yeah, you don't get to do it very often in this game.
No, not in golf, yes.
Which, for some people, that's a huge advantage, because some people just can't catch. This is a game for throwers, not catchers. But no, I think it would be, like we were just touching on, I think obviously everybody has kind of a similar tale of the moment that their love affair with the flying disc began. And it usually starts not the first round they play of disc golf or whatever. It's usually a couple rounds in, the first time they really get behind one and it does something remotely like what they intended for it to do. And they get to see that flight. And This doesn't sound stupid anymore.
Playing ball golf, you go out there and you play around and you're terrible, but you hit one good shot. And
Right.
Like, it'll bring you back. Same thing with Frisbee. Get one good shot and it'll bring you back. You
Yep.
know? And then after you're a pro, have one bad shot.
Right.
It's a whole different game.
So you started out, you got the club going at MTSU, or the club was already there? Kessler was running it when you got to MTSU?
When I landed there, Dave had ran a practice.
Okay, so he was just very beginning.
They were starting in the very beginning, and instantly we switched over to campus. Just so happened to be I was the closest house to the ultimate field, so that was nice. So yeah, we just started that, and we had an instant group of 20 guys that were just dedicated to it. And Dave and I were had seen more world class Frisbee, so we knew about golf, we knew about these other events, so we turned all these kids on to golf and other events as well as teaching them ultimate. And so mostly the ultimate players, they settle into golfers, as we all settle into golfers. Our legs aren't quite as strong.
I wonder what it is about it, because unless you're in a collegiate or in academia, disc golf is the place that flying disc sports just evolved. It's like where things really kind of flesh themselves out. Ultimate has and always has had a very thriving community among universities and colleges. But outside of that, it seems like people struggle to stay plugged in and stay a part of that community. And that was kind of like behind the whole initiative that came about in the fall, winter, the Ultimate Disc Golf Derby, where we ran you were playing a disc golf course with lids. But I love that stuff. That to me is like, I don't know. And I'm officially now running for the PDGA Board of Directors, as long as they don't bury my application. I'm just kidding. They wouldn't do that. But that's a part of me. I feel like we are at the point now where we're growing at a pace and to a level where we're letting go of certain things about the sport, or at the bare minimum, people that are falling in love with disc sports now are not getting the same all-encompassing full scope view of the flying disc that people that came along before them did. And I see the disparity there between just me coming along and joining the PDGA in 2013, and then to now, the guys that are starting to pick it up now, and girls, it's almost like it's a different game now, and they're falling in love with something different because, obviously you have things that evolve and adapt and change over time. Nothing stays the same, but it's almost like what I'm afraid of, and I'm starting to feel more simpatico with people like Steve Kearns and Steve Hardy and Ken Folger, who have always, and Farm Fresh, and a lot of these guys that kind of paved the way for us and what we're doing and have taught me a lot. And they've always, even if it's not articulated or fully expressed, they've always kind of had or this air about them that there's a hesitancy to embrace the growth, and like they're afraid that it's not going to be what it was. And I've always been like, oh, come on, man. It'll always be available for everybody at every level. It's for everybody, period, But I do see how we are starting to let slip things like our history. We are starting to let slip, like there's not as much, and I don't mean to be pessimistic by any means, because I am ever the optimist, and I volunteer my time at this in order to keep this kind of thing from happening. But I understand the concern now that we're losing the history, we're losing the love, we're losing this intangible, like some of the intangibles that I fell in love with, because the disc golf was awesome, but it was the socially driven nature of it. It was the community of it. It was all these different intangible things that really made me fully aware immediately that it was going to be a part of my life forever. And I feel like, I don't think we've lost anything, but I think we're moving in a trajectory where it's a possibility, and that I think it's time for people in leadership to double down and prevent us from losing any more of that. I don't know. That could just be me being paranoid and
No, there's some truth to that, because you're in the evolution. So the more people you get, the more of a bureaucracy it is, the more of it. You're not that local community anymore. What we all fell in love with when I got in Frisbee was that community.
Yeah.
I love
the Frisbee family.
Yeah, I love going and hanging out with those guys and gals. I love throwing disc with them and going and having the beer afterwards. And next thing you know, we're on our motorcycles going to Danville, Kentucky, and we're going to, Georgia, and we just went everywhere. And so we built that friendship, that Frisbee family there. And that was a small group. And when you're small groups, small classes, they're better. But you can have both. I think we can have both, especially disc golf. It can be an Olympic sport. It can, be this big sport. But you can always go to your local clubhouse, your local golf course, and that's where your friends are going to be. And, so you can
Well, it's like Seven Oaks.
Yeah.
People that left Nashville 15 years ago come back just randomly, and they're like, they show up on Tuesday night at Seven Oaks. Hey, is Dub still happening? Like, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, for sure, Dub's still happening.
Right. And in freestyle, now to walk away from golf to my sport, my favorite Frisbee event, freestyle, we're even a smaller community. And I always tell people, lots of people can ice skate. A few people can play hockey. Very few people can do a triple salchow.
Right.
You get to a very small group. So in freestyle, we don't need big groups like maybe golf does. Because when we play, we get the audience, we get the TV coverage, we get
it's flashy.
We get, I go play at the Cove or the Shores in California, and tourists sit down and watch us for hours. So we get that crowd. So we don't need a lot of numbers, but we do need enough to keep it alive, and we can peel a few from golf, and we can peel a few from Ultimate, and so I'll do a shameless plug, frisbeeguru.com.
Frisbee Guru.
That's our number one teaching website. That's where our podcasts are for freestyle. A lot of advanced tricks are on there, so you can learn beginner tricks or watch videos, of advanced tricks. And when I was learning, I got like one tape once and saw freestylers play somewhere in California.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen. Nowadays, you can see every video or go back and watch any beginning tape. So you have so many more references today, which is great.
Yeah.
If you want to learn to nail delay or learn some trick catches with your buddies, so you can just go out. So a lot of golfers, Crazy John's a great freestyler.
Yep.
Ken Climo could jam. There's been a few, and I think it always helped him. And Crazy, I heard him say the other day that, freestyle and golf are the two of the sport that are the hardest, to master. And I'm with that. I wouldn't say anybody's ever going to master freestyle, but I got at a level of mastery for a while. And golf is just way too hard. I'm too old now, I
got a small window there. I mean, you got like you're 20 years old to 35 years old. That's your prime window right there.
If you want to win, if you want to win the world,
yeah,
if you want to hang out with your buddies, you can do it for a lifetime recreation. And that's what I chose to do. And that's what Frisbee is great for. I needed a recreation that would drive me, and freestyle it's a little bit juggling. It's a little art form. You do it to music. You go out and you play, and your brain just gets happier and happier, and you start catching, and you start jamming with another player, and all of a sudden you're at this level that's unbelievable. And next week you're a puppy dog. I was like, I want to go play again. I want to go play again. And then you do that for 15 years, and you still want to play on Friday. You still want to play on Saturday. You still want to play on Sunday. It was so addicting, so good. And very few sports bring that type of addiction to you. I love playing basketball. It had a kind of a freestyle. You could kind of freestyle with basketball. You can invent shots. You can do things
like NBA street, or like you're talking about the N1 street ball stuff. And,
yeah. But you can't do that football or even track.
Right.
So
you get disqualified immediately.
So I had fun in basketball because it was freestyle. But when I discovered freestyle, and it was just like, wow, there's no rules. You just get to play and have fun, and then it's art. You either like it or you don't. But
it's martial arts almost. And I've always, and I think I'm definitely not alone or the first person to do so, but there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between disc golf or disc sports and martial arts. And from a person who has primarily experience in disc golf, you think about books like Zen and the Art of Disc Golf. It's very martial. It's a mind, body, spirit centering kind of activity. And I think it's one of those things like in martial arts, like for anybody that's ever trained in martial arts, even if you start young, there's years of training that happens before you really gain a full appreciation for the poetry or the beauty and the art of it, where it's martial up until a point where you really grasp the art of it. And I feel like freestyle is the full embodied embracement or the embracing of the art portion of that martial art of disc sports. because it's beautiful what you guys, I mean, it's definitely more beautiful when Juliana does it than a lot of other people, but it's like, you know, it's this amazing thing where martial arts is, you know, equal parts hard and soft. It's be like stone, be like water, and freestyle is the water. It's almost like the Tai Chi of martial arts as comparative to disc golf.
And martial arts and gymnasts and a lot of things like that have a discipline of your body and movement and control. And then you add another element of the wind and it's just flying on its own. Because I could throw it to you, but the wind
does what it does.
Does what it does. So now you've got to adapt. So that's what I loved about it. Learning to master the disc coming at you in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter, you know, any angle, any direction, any speed, you know, you got to play on it, you know. And that's kind of like juggling, or kind of like when you get to a place in music where you just can riff with each other.
Right.
You know, it's the jazz of it, you know.
Well, and that's then you add another element to it where I've always kind of thought, and I'm not the first person to draw this illustration, but somebody, I forget, it was an article probably in Disc Golfer magazine, but it said somebody, or maybe even just like some outdoors publication that highlighted disc golf or something. I remember somebody in an article saying that out of all of the outdoor recreation activities, out of all of these things that you can do, hiking, mountain biking, trail running, all this stuff that's like physical fitness, outdoor activity type stuff, it's all built around the observation of nature. And disc golf is unique in that you are interacting with nature, where you are using your body and your mind as a lever to propel a projectile around naturally existing obstacles towards a target. So and if you play, you know, like everybody does, everybody has a home course or a course that they play more predominantly than others. You begin to develop a very intimate relationship with that piece of property, and you are really, really, it's a symbiotic relationship at some point after you've played one course for a number of years. And it's never the same. It could be the same pin positions. And over the years, you start thinking of different ways you can attack that target and different discs you can use. And it's just so unique, man. There's nothing like it in the world.
And so that leads into my pandemic pitch and putt. I've been having my own
sorry, not to cut you off, but where I was going with that was when you're doing freestyle and you're doing doubles freestyle.
Right.
That is almost like taking the beauty and the art and the poetry of freestyle and adding another layer where now it's not only another variable, but it's almost like when two people get together, like, you know, like legendary songwriters like Simon and Garfunkel. And when you get these legendary songwriters together that make these beautiful pieces of music, and then you talk to them afterwards and they're like, we didn't make that we were there for it. We helped birth it into the world.
Right.
But, you know, anyway, sorry. Now you
hear Bob Dylan say that, right? I didn't write those songs. They just came through me. Right. Exactly. And so that is great because when you're learning, you got to learn the basics. You got to learn to spin it on your finger delay. We call it nail delay. You got to run chest rolls and back rolls, and you got to learn to kick it and tap it. You know, basic elements that we do in freestyle. But then you get to put them in your own style, you know, because none of us look like when we look the same when we run, and we don't look the same when we freestyle.
Everybody moves different.
We all move different. We have things that work for us and don't. And so then you just start adapting all the time. And then, like you said, you get with somebody else and you get with a third party, you get with the wind and the elements, and you get great music. And then you just invent things that individually you could never do.
Right.
You know, and that never, you know, it has to be a group to make that happen. So you play with the best players and just magic happens. And we literally sometimes just fall down laughing because it's like, that's not possible.
The most goofy thing.
You can't do that. You know, gravity doesn't allow that to work, but we just did it, you know.
Yeah, we just saw it.
We can't reproduce it. You know, that's where we invent things too, you know, is you try things that are impossible and one of them works, you know, and they're like, oh.
Well, and this is an interesting metaphor or illustration for a deeper concept, but that's discourse. That's two people's minds operating independently of each other, finding a middle ground, and creating art, or creating something where there was nothing, at the very least. And look at where our world has come to. You know, now we're in a place where, I mean, we experienced such crazy technological advancement over the last 60, 70 years. And it was all because of competition. It was the best parts of capitalism. It was people that disagreed sitting at a table and talking it out and finding a way to make things happen. And now everybody that disagrees picks sides, and it's us versus them, and people don't come to a table and talk about that anymore. But now you're talking about, this is just a great, beautiful example, because you've got two people, different styles, different body types, different musculature, two people that move different, and they're making something beautiful that never existed before happen spontaneously. And in another life, I was a rapper, and that's always the thing is like, can you freestyle?
Right.
And it's like, you've got some people that are just like all written, like they only write their stuff. They can't freestyle at all. And then you've got like people that only freestyle, like Jay-Z, never writes his rhymes. But then it's, it's one of those two things. It's like, where's your passion? It's like for disc golf is almost for the writers. It's like, there's a pre-established route here. We're trying to paint a line to a target. But freestyle, it's like, off the top, how crazy are you really? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's even true in freestyle, because there are preset, premeditated moves. You can throw me the disc and I can do exact move and do it 10 times in a row.
Right.
And people do that. They build these, moves on top of moves on top of moves, But I never did that. I just wanted to build the basics and then put the basics together, and that built moves. So my whole gig was instinctual freestyle, never wrote it down guy.
Right.
Where other people were writing it down, I was like, no, it's just freestyle,
Off the top.
And so you got to be quick. You got to have quick hand speed. You got to, it's all got
instincts.
Yeah. And you got to develop those chops, because
reflexes,
they don't come to you.
You talk about fast twitch.
Yeah.
Like,
but I'm not fast twitch.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Yeah. The fast twitch between your brain and your hand, or your brain and your foot, like that has to happen in an instant.
And that happens, and you look at long distance runners, they don't peak till their 30s or 40s, because it takes 20 years of running to get those legs, to get those lungs, to get that body built to run those distances. Same with freestyler. It takes years. I mean, no one is good at 5 years. I mean, they're good at 5 years, but you got so much more. It takes 10 years to start mastering the basics, and then you build on it,
Well, and that's what Scott said in his book about DDC. He was like, and he speaks very sentimentally and almost laments the loss of DDC, because he talks about him and Stork and all these guys back then that were playing the DDC, and it was like they were all almost, it's the way he tells it, it sounds like everybody that was playing it was almost more passionate about the DDC than they were about the golf. Like to them it was that was the one that mattered. They picked their team and practiced and trained and strategized years in advance to play these DDC. Snapper.
Awesome.
And now it's like, and he talks about it in this way that like it's been lost, and nobody will ever understand how awesome it is. One, because it's not highlighted in any events anymore, but two, because there was a natural barrier there, or a bar of entry where you didn't really grasp how awesome DDC was until you got really good at it, and getting really good at it took a while.
Yeah.
And you had to, like, it took some commitment. So it was like there was a core group of people who were really good at it and loved it and wanted to play it forever. But if you hadn't played it up to the point where it clicked for you, it was kind of like there wasn't much interst there. And that's kind of like comparable to freestyle.
Like most sports, you've got to put some investment into it to even get to a level to really enjoy them. Volleyball or anything, basketball, you got to learn to dribble. You got to put any. But yeah, DDC is it's a great sport, and people love. They're dedicated today. They're still crew. I see them playing all the time.
Yeah.
So it's having a little revival. I don't know how big any overall sport, because we compete against cornhole or something. I don't know.
Well, and call me crazy, man, but I'm thinking at the stage that we're at now, where the PDGA is growing so ridiculously fast, and you've got these tournaments, more and more tournaments, and they're all filling up in 5 minutes. People that are more established, I guess, in their disc life, to them it's harder to get into tournaments because they can't pull the trigger on an event months in advance and know they're going to be able to show up. They got real life obligations. But now there's so many new players, so many amateurs that are out there with their clicking fingers ready as soon as stuff pops up on DG scene. So now it's like you got to get in where you fit in. And part of my kind of idea behind running for the PDGA board, or just trying to exist at a level where I can offer my input, I think if we can find a way to encourage or even incentivize tournament directors to start thinking a little bit more outside of the box and thinking creatively, and maybe let's come up with some series, let's come up with some tournaments that are AM specific, that are geared towards these newer players that are just beginning their love affair with the flying disc. Let's add all of the stuff that they are going to appreciate, give them an environment where they can get acclimated to the tournament atmosphere, but not blow their minds entirely right out the gate. And then we can, by doing so, a lot of these other established legacy events can be open to more established players that have been around a little bit longer, maybe even out some of that demand. But also, I think that the stage is set and ripe for the return of more overall events. I think
you're right there, and that's been our mission in the FPA Freestyle Players Association. I mean, we literally came up with the tagline "Spread the Jam," because we know we're small and we've got to grow the sport just like the golf does. So we spread the jam, and part of it is just exposing people. Tell them there's a website there. People play this on the beach, or we do have a few tournaments. DDC does exist. MTA, people are still throwing MTA. These events are going on. They're small, and you can teach yourself. You can go to events. So spreading the jam. We have people pop up. It's like, I've been watching your videos, and I want to play in a tournament, and they've gotten really good just watching videos, So part of it is not even having to have a sanctioned event. It's just telling people it's out there, reminding people that these other sports exist with a disc, and they're really fun to play. And check them out sometimes. I mean, Juliana's done great in exposing freestyle to disc golf, and we have a few crossovers, but we need more.
Yeah,
and we need just exposure like we're getting here. Just tell people that, hey, there is freestyle. We do happen, and it's not happening in America as much as it is in Europe, but we still have our core players here, and Europe has bloomed in freestyle, so that's really helped our sport. We go over there, and Italy and France and Germany all have tournaments. They all have great players now.
Japan is really doing. Look at what's happening in Africa.
Yeah,
the kids on Facebook, like the Net Jam guys that are just like in the middle of the marketplace doing freestyle stuff, and it's obviously it's rudimentary, but the big smile. It's like this is the thing, man. Is like, and this almost comes back to how I am very critical of people operating in and around media who, when I suggest, let's put some cameras on the Masters, everybody's like, nobody wants to see that. Well, I'm like, dude, nobody wants to see it if you film it like you're not interested in seeing it. But like if you showcase it properly, there's interest and value and worth there.
Yeah.
And it's just like this freestyle stuff. You see these kids in the middle of nowhere in Africa, like they see a video on YouTube of Juliana Korver nail delaying and doing under the legs and all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, what is that?" And they've been playing disc golf for a little while because you got stuff going on at Asosa University and the stuff Johannes is doing down there, and so these people are like seeing these different things you can do, and I'm really encouraged by some of the newer cats. I say newer, but that they've been around for a while, but like Sarah Sinclair, and Brian Earhart. And all these people who have an appreciation of the flying disc at its core, where they came from a background of ultimate, or at least a background that has some experience in one of these other disc disciplines. Because I know, like for me, disc golf, I was around disc sports all my life. Disc golf came late in the game. When I was a little kid, my mom's old man that lived with us, he was an old freestyle guy from back in the day. So anytime we were outside, we were throwing lids. He also got me into martial arts, but I remember, like, he grew up in South Philly, and his best friend was a truck driver that he grew up with, and he would come and stay with us every once in a while when he was passing through, and I'd wake up early in the morning and look out the window, and it was one of two things. They would either be out there sparring, or they'd be out there jamming, and it was, like, constant like that. So anytime we were camping, outside, we're throwing lids, and then in high school, I got into discus. I was on the track team. I was throwing discus and javelin and shot put and stuff like that, and then college, played a little ultimate. And then it was like, but there were these times where people would suggest, hey, let's go play disc golf. And I'd be like, that sounds stupid. Like, no, it sounds dumb. Like, I was aware of it, but I was just like not interested. And then it took me like 2 or 3 rounds until a disc flew the way I wanted it to. And I was like, oh, it's over. It's over. But that's the thing now, is I think that people are I think they don't even realize it, but I think like the market is there. Like, people will sponge that up.
Yeah,
if we present it to them.
Yeah, and so it's a little bit out there. Like I said, Spread the Jam is our theme, and so you can go look that up on the web and find some freestyle videos. Or we had the World Urban Games year before last, before the pandemic, and that was kind of Urban X Games, but they included freestyle. So we had a really great world stage that the freestylers, they had like our younger players, like under 35 players play. So we got people from, I think, about 15 countries, teams. They had mixed pairs, men and women. And that was you should check that out on YouTube. It's awesome. That was a great event. So
For sure.
we're getting a few getting a few pieces of exposure out there.
I think the stage is set, man. I think it's a matter of time because all it takes is some industrious, forward-thinking promoter or tournament director to just pull the trigger and just decide once and for all, hey, we're bringing it back.
Well, Nike built it in Europe a little bit when they did Stickman and when they did the Nike commercial, man. People saw freestyle soccer and freestyle frisbee. And
cardinal sin of podcasting.
You can tell who the rookie
Never
is.
coming back, Rogers. You're banned from the Sapphire.
The 96-year-olds calling
I'm just kidding.
Maybe
Jay Skinner does that.
one.
Jay Skinner does that every episode. It's fine. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Marcus and Dr. Hoy. Dr. Hoy is at work saving babies. Marcus's van got stolen last night. He's had a rough couple days. Jay, man, he's taking care of babies and a sick wife. So shout out to the guys. I thought we were getting the band back together tonight. I was all looking forward to it. But it's almost, I don't know, I feel like you're such a wealth of knowledge that if we had everybody in here, it would just be all of us going,
Well, we need a little bit of that. But
yeah. A little bit of raucous. We'll just throw that up for appreciation one more time. I'm going to do that probably several times throughout the episode. So you were, okay, so let's flash back now. You're back at MTSU, you and Kessler, back in the club. Now, you were making up golf games and doing Ultimate. When did freestyle become a thing for you? When did that hit your radar? When did you...
So I invented freestyle when I invented golf.
Yeah.
Honestly, because...
You just started doing tricks.
I was a basketball player, so spinning the ball, doing tricks with the basketball. So I'm like, I know you can spin that thing on your finger. Now, as I learned, they're different skills, but the first time I saw it hovering, and I loved it, just settling down, that stall, and like, ease it down. And I couldn't teach myself. It was really hard to teach myself, but I did actually, and just kept working on it. Finally, in '77, I saw somebody spin it, and I'm like, okay, it is possible. I saw it delay.
Padiddle?
Yeah, no, they were actually delaying.
Okay.
So padiddle's slightly different from a delay.
I know nothing. I'm just throwing. I'm throwing the few terms out there. I got. I'm just reeling them in.
So, because they're a little bit different actions, but I saw that and I'm like, oh, I want that spinning on my finger. I didn't even think about freestyle or doing tricks. I just like, I could spin a basketball? Could I spin a frisbee? And then I started looking into it and saw, there was people who were real jammers and they do real tricks and catches. And I'm like, oh, I like that. So it was there in '77, somewhere in there. Picked up probably a Frisbee World and saw, photographs, but you still can't tell what people are doing on a photograph. It's like, well, that looks cool. What
context?
Yeah, I don't know what and then soon after that, I actually saw a couple players. Like I said, at '79, I was already delaying and doing moves, but there were couple real players came here. And then '80, I got lucky, and Kessler and I went to Sarasota to an NAS tournament, and that was golf and freestyle. And that's where I was introduced to world-class players. Donnie Rhodes was there, who was one of the most incredible players. And there's a whole host of wonderful athletes at that tournament in Sarasota. And I'm like, oh, this is what freestyle could look like. And so I go home and I just start playing all the time. Now I play golf in the morning and freestyle in the afternoon. But I love freestyle. I just love trying to invent things, trying to make a new move or a new catch or, a new throw, because we were so beginners. Everything you did was almost a new trick. Nowadays it's really hard to invent a new trick. But Kessler and I, we got together, and there was others. Barry Gill, B. Gill was a good freestyler back then, and Kevin Dunn, jammed with us. They were all, Grant Posey, all these guys were jammers back then too. Matter of fact, the first Tennessee States didn't have golf in it, by the way.
Yeah, I'm aware of that one. I think HB mentioned that when we had him on the show.
Yeah. So, but it's evolved, and to me, it was always when people saw golf. When I introduced people to the sport, they saw golf. They could instantly relate to it. When I introduced people to Ultimate, they could instantly relate to it. Freestyle, it's like, well, that's kind of cool, but how do you do that? They couldn't see that connection to how to do it. That's why we've got to teach you the basics, and the basics are really fun to learn. In golf, it's kind of frustrating learning to putt, but in freestyle...
in golf, it's a different dynamic, too, because everybody starts out, they see some coverage or they see a YouTube video, and they want to run out there with a nuke and throw it a mile, and then they get 130 feet down the fairway, and it goes straight up and hooks up and goes to the left. and lands right next to him.
So us old guys who were throwing the 40 bowls, these guys that you had to put them on the perfect line, hyzer lines and stuff, watching people who can't throw, 100, 200 feet in and be under the basket. I'm like, that beveled edge is a little tough for that shot,
Yep.
But they all learned, they saw that and just picked that up. And we're us old schoolers, we like evolved into that, but we can out throw you in 200 feet and under.
Oh yeah, and accurate as shit. Yeah, no, I was. I remember
Maybe not James Conrad, but
Right.
a few of them.
Well, I mean, yeah, but then it's funny because you run up for like 200 feet and throw it 150. But no, it was because when I learned, because I went out to Arizona and my buddy, his mom was sick, and so I ended up hanging out with him for a week, and that was all we did was play disc golf. So by the time I came back to Nashville, I had the bug, and then I started buying discs, and I started going out to Crockett Park in Brentwood, and I ran into Taylor Kaysen, who was one of my first mentors, who was just very cool, was like, man, just let me know if you're coming out here. I live 5 minutes away. I'll come out and meet you, and he gave me pointers, and I remember I had a blowfly. I had a blowfly in my bag, and I was like super proud of my blowfly. I was like, look at this cool thing. You could like flip it, like that. And he grabs a hold of it and throws it 400 feet. And I was like, thanks, Taylor. That's awesome. But then it was immediately after that because I liked going to Crockett Park because I knew I didn't know anything. And I didn't want to embarrass myself. And there was hardly ever anybody out there. But the people that would show up on the weekends were the Williamson County Club. Ron Pittman, Jim Becker and the Beckerlings, and Brandon Johnson and Robert Zavala and all these guys. And Jim Becker and Ron Pittman, man, these guys, they're in their 50s, and they were air bouncing Valkyries. And I'm watching these golf discs, these slow profile golf discs coming out of their hands and going like this and taking off like a DeLorean. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But I was impressed by that early on more than I was watching somebody throw 400 or 500 feet. I don't know, and it's probably the martial nature of my mind, but I gravitated to the flight of it, to the shaping of it, right, to the cultivated knowledge behind how it goes. And that was always the beautiful part, was like, because it took strategy, it took precision, timing, mechanics, knowing the terrain, reading the wind, all these things, and being able to get it there. That to me was like, there are so many variables, and being able to stay true to that, there's something just really, and when you're able to do it, that focus, that centered in tunnel vision type focus, there's no feeling like that. You know what I mean?
So in our sport, we're trying to put spin on it. It's not distance, it's spin.
Right.
So we're trying to, and so you generate spin by that, torquing it and throwing it. But the air bounce where it comes up and sets down on you, you learn those throws in freestyle because they set up good for your partner. But then you can translate a little bit to that throwing one under a branch of a tree on a putt or something that people aren't used to. I love the air bounce just to throw that throw and watch people's mind, just like, because I can make it bounce, pretty good there. It's like, how do you skip it without hitting the ground? Here you go.
Yeah, it's awesome to watch it happen with a golf disc because it looks like it's going straight at the ground. And then
it catches.
They're so low profile. They're so slim. And then it's going straight at the ground, and then it just goes. And it's almost like watching the DeLorean kind of come down, and then dust kicks up, and then it goes and just shoots off like a UFO. It's pretty dope. When did the California move happen to you, and how did that precipitate? Because was that after you graduated college?
Yes. I decided I wanted to get out of MTSU, graduate there. So I told my wife, Kim, that we're going to move to a Frisbee town somewhere. I'm not sure, but when I graduate, we're out of here. And as luck had it, we graduated, and I went to an indoor tournament in San Diego. And just on the off chance, literally didn't know a single soul in the town, and still went and applied for a job. And sure enough, they said, if you can be here in 2 weeks, we'll hire you. And Kim and I came home, and I'm like, I guess we're moving to California. How's that sound? And she's like, okay. I mean, literally just out of the blue.
Is Kim a native here in the Nashville area?
She, since about 6th grade, she was born in Houston and then Louisville, then came to Nashville. So, but since about
she
counts.
Yeah, she qualifies.
Right, exactly.
Grandfathered in.
Yes, she is. Yeah, so we just up and left to California. Literally packed my truck and took off, and had no place to stay or anything, and drove to the golf course, of course, and it was Wednesday, so they had Wednesday double and snappers playing, and I don't know if you know John Jewell, he's a classic freestyle disc golfer, and PD, this famous people, and I'd had a golf course here at my house at John Hager, so I had 14 holes. So I was putting every day, so I'm pretty on my putting. go out there getting their doubles, and Snapper's burning it up, and Petey and JJ and me and Petey ended up tying JJ for I think second or third, and beat him in the playoff. I loved that, because I knew who he was. He was my hero in freestyle and overall player, the great golfer. And he didn't know me from Adam. And I just sunk that putt that he missed.
So when you guys decided to go, was it the disc golf, the freestyle, or the sunshine?
Freestyle.
Just playing freestyle on the beach?
I was only going to go to a frisbee town, freestyle frisbee town. So.
And you see it on the beach, and it's like, that's where we want to do it. Soft places to land if you mess up that.
We play on the hard pack. We love to play on the hard pack. So we play at low tide on the beach.
Oh, okay.
And so in California, when I went out there in the beginning, I want to win the U.S. Open. I want to win the FPA Worlds. They're all played on grass outdoors. So we went and spent most of our time in the summer playing on grass to get ready for big tournaments. In the winter, you get all the massive low tides. We go out and play on the beach all winter long. So we had a winter game, beach wind game, and then we'd come play on the grass and work on your more technical grass skills and work on your routine, because we'd build a routine and have that for the season or something. But it was the low tide. I mean, I went out to that tournament in San Diego, and we played. Ironically, it was an indoor freestyle tournament in San Diego.
Troublesome.
Something. So we played in there, but then we all went to the Shores, which is the most beautiful park there in San Diego. Beautiful beach. We go down there, and I started watching these world-class players play in the wind, like really connected. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there one day. I wouldn't yet. Still got the thumb, still, trying to, do your moves. But I saw what they were doing. I'm like, I'm going there. And so I went home and got lucky enough to come right back. I'd been to California in 84. I went to the U.S. Open. I worked staff in 84, 85. So I'd been to La Mirada. I'd been to, most of the beaches, Venice, and, played on the beach. But it wasn't until I got to San Diego where every day. And when I got there, it was awesome. There was 30 of us that had moved there from all over the United States, just on a whim at the same time, just synchronicity. And we show up and we just start a movement, basically. We play every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Me and my partner, Schiller, would play Monday and Tuesday, and then we'd take 2 days off, and we'd be right back at it, I literally quit playing golf. I'm having so much fun playing on the beach every day, 5 days a week. I mean, literally. When am I going to free golf?
Schiller's another big name in disc sports too, man. And this is
Amy Schiller.
Amy Schiller. Okay. Still the Schillers.
yeah.
Power couple. But
yes,
no,
yes.
I mean that's something that's really remarkable.
Amy
because
is an amazing overall player. At the time when I first went out there, she was crushing U.S. Opens and winning everything. And
back then, it was like those people. Their kids now are. It was a generational thing.
Yep. And so, Dave turned out for me. He turned out when I showed up there, we hooked up and started playing together, and he just blew up. He became the best player on the planet for years and years to come. And I was lucky enough to be right there. And then everybody, there was just a whole crew of amazing players. Dave Murphy, and I can't name them all, but we just spent all our time jamming and traveling. And for me, life is about joy, right? Life is about experiences. Life is about trust and being with people. And freestyle did all that. We had great friends in the city. When you say I'm going to be in Seattle at a tournament, you didn't have to tell anybody. They would all be there. You didn't have to ask them a second time. And that's what I loved about how hardcore these people were with myself. Like, nobody begged anybody to do anything. We were just all puppy dogs waiting to let's go.
It doesn't make any sense.
We're going to go beat these guys.
Totally illogical. Like, we have no idea what we're doing, or our parents are very upset with us, but it makes sense to us.
Yes. And I got a PhD in play. That's what I did. I went out there and just played and played and played. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of talent. I'm not one of them. I work hard. I just put the time in and put the hours in, and steady she goes, and work my way up through the ranks, and
And you nailed a magic window because you got right in there when everything was happening.
Yeah.
And
it was still happening now. It's
well,
still
yeah,
in that
for
window.
sure.
Yeah.
But you think about as a person, and I don't know how
it was though. It was pretty magical.
I don't know how many disc golfers, especially newer disc golfers, have the kind of appreciation for these historical moments and figures like I do. But I look, especially after being in your house and seeing your pictures and your collection and all that stuff. It's like you showed up And you were immediately just like in this tight circle with a bunch of other legends.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of, like all the who's who. You got Stork and you got Schillers and you got all these people. And you ended up just becoming very close with Ed Hedrick and Walter Fred Morrison, the inventor of the Frisbee.
Well, I wouldn't say I was
Well,
close.
I mean, closer than anybody else I know. Come on.
I did get to go hang out with him. Yes, once.
I saw a picture of you shaking his hand. He looked pretty stoked to be hanging out with you. I don't know.
So that's a great story. In 2000, Victor Malafonte came over to my house. He had just moved to Oceanside, and he wrote the book, the Frisbee book. And so he's a master collector and stuff. And I've been at it a while. So we're chatting, and we're bringing things up and trying to one-up each other. And he brings up 2 or 3 discs. I'm like, hold on. Open up my trunk. I'm like, you mean this one in the package here? And Victor's like, I've never seen one. So I got to show off a little bit. But as we were chatting, he goes, yeah, I've been writing Fred. And I'm like, oh, Fred's still alive, isn't he? Fred's right here amongst us, isn't he?
You mean like D-Fred?
I mean, like the guy who made the first Frisbee? Yeah, I'm going to go hang out with him. So I did. I got my car and went and visited him. He's in Richfield, Utah, and spent the day with him. And that was, I mean, what else? What other sport? You don't get to go meet the guy who invented a basketball or a football or even a golf club, So that was a great day. He was phenomenal. His life story is, one of a movie. It'll definitely be made someday, because he spawned all of us, every one of us. And that little piece of plastic is so inexpensive, so simple. And yet, I can spend thousands and thousands of hours, and it makes me happy every time.
Well, this little piece of plastic may not be inexpensive. Maybe not this one in particular. Sorry, I just had to throw that in everybody's face again one more time. But no, man, this is priceless stuff, and this is what I loved, and you guys will be able to see. Probably after this episode airs, I'll get the video up of the museum tour. I'll make sure you're cool with it before it goes public. But there's just so much priceless stuff, and I remember seeing a video of somebody getting a tour of Stork's collection in California, and thinking. When I was looking at some of your stuff, I was just thinking about like, man, Dan Roddick, eat your heart out.
Well,
you guys boosted each other's collections. You guys kind of helped each other get to where you're at with your little museums.
Well, he's the man. He was the man at WAMO, so he's been doling out things from the Rose Bowls, all these years. So he had a nice little stash to begin with. But yeah, I've had some great exchanges with Stork. He really is the man who. Everybody loves Hedrick, but to me, Stork was the one that really brought it to the masses. Yeah. He was the one that was there at WAMO and doing it and doing it and doing it and
well and doing it and doing it and doing it well.
And right, he was able to do it with how hard you're a tournament director. You cannot please people, and yet he still could calm the crowd and please them, and he does to today. And he's just an amazing spirit. We're so lucky to have him in our sport. And he was, throw it sky pilot, throw it to that tree, which he called it something else, but basically kind of a golf form, and then ultimate, and then he worked his way into overall and stuff. But in the early days, we just discovered Frisbee. You just threw it, you enjoyed it, and then nowadays there's so many sports, so it's like, where do you spend your time?
Yeah. Do you think it was kind of like a scenario where back then it was so small and so niche that everybody was just fiending for the next opportunity they had to throw a disc, whatever the game was, whatever the rules were. And then now it's to a part where now it's kind of corporate. And so everybody that picks up a golf disc is like, well, this is where the money is. I got to get as good at this, and I'm just going to ignore everything else. I don't know if that's a sentiment that exists, or if it's.
Well, I've seen people in the early days when we were what we were overall players, and I definitely saw people who said, okay, golf is where the money is. That's where I'm going to go. And they went to golf, for money. And I went to freestyle for love, right? And so you get to pick what you want to do. If you want to love and go do that, if you want to go bowling, you get to pick what you love. But I love freestyle, and I would love for other people to see it and experience it, and and recognize what freestyle is, and maybe turn 1 or 2 golfers onto it or something, but it's well worth it. And, jamming freestyle, golf, all the disc sports are just magical, and having that plastic in your hand. And like I said, it feels like you retire from everything else, but you're never going to retire from Frisbee. You're just going to be a lifelong player. Like quit playing softball. I don't do that anymore. But I'm never going to say that about Frisbee, So it's magical in that part of it. And that's what I think draws most of us. Today I watch, because I walked away from golf for many years, freestyling. And then when I come back, and now you have this incredible YouTube, and you have stars, and you have people, Paul making real money, and it really did explode. And the kids that I see that are attracted now are kind of attracted like you were to like Lou Alcindor or Jabbar, early basketball stars. I mean, they talk about, they're heroes. I mean, they want to play with Macbeth. It's amazing to me to see how much you have developed stars. You have developed these rich characters now that are in the golf sport, and kids are fans. They're huge. It's I mean, you watch big tournaments.
You're gonna hurt it.
And how many fans are out there? And so I think it's all brilliant. I'm just thrilled to have watched it all these years. And every time, I see Sports Center yesterday. I don't know if you noticed that, but they did a piece on the guy. I'm thrilled every time I see Frisbee, on national TV. I'm just thrilled. I'm proud. I'm happy. I know there's a lot of us who are thrilled and proud and happy, and I'm glad I had my little part in Tennessee, helping it get started here and keeping the ball rolling, and then of course my own personal success is always good.
Well, and I love hearing about that stuff too. And that's good excuse for me to have a podcast. But like I love hearing about that stuff, because to me, that's really kind of a big part of what fires me up about doing what I do, is you doing what you did when you did, and me doing what I do now. Like, even if we hadn't met each other and become friends like that, we're connected on a very, very special, almost mystical level because of the love that exists around this sport. And you touched on something that I think is special. You talked about Fred. What other sport do you get to meet the inventor that created this whole crazy thing? But that's another really unique thing about disc golf, even still with the growth that we're experiencing now, is we have stars. We've got $10 million athletes, but everybody's still so accessible.
They are.
Like, you see these people on YouTube, they have these cultivated YouTube channels where you're not only seeing what they're doing with the disc, but you're seeing what their life is like. You're getting a glimpse into them being as relatable people, and the celebrity is almost, it's not really muted. But you never know when you might just look on Facebook and all of a sudden you find out there's a McBeast challenge coming to your home course in middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. And Paul Macbeth and Nate Sexton might just show up and run a little round at your course on their way to a tournament. And then, boom, you're just on a course with Paul Macbeth. That's another really special thing about this sport. Is one of the things we talked about is like, and this has always been a big part of my strategy as a promoter, is I think disc golf has always been and should always continue to be all things to all people. It should exist at every level that everybody wants it to exist on. Everybody should be able to play it once a month with their buddies as a casual recreational thing. And I have always felt about it more specifically, like in terms of a club being a pathway or a ladder to the different levels of disc golf, where you can ride this ladder to wherever you want to be and get off wherever you want, sample the offerings, get back on the ladder, maybe migrate to another floor. The local and regional organizations should provide that infrastructure to give people access to all the different things that disc sports can be. And I think that that's a big thing that people are missing out on now, is the opportunity to make things like freestyle and DDC and MTA and all that other stuff. I think there's a really ripe field for that stuff to be planted again. And it would be really awesome to see, because it's one of those things about our history that we're in danger of losing. And you see the people that, like Scott in his book, like, it's so, like, you can tell he's heartbroken talking about how much they love DDC, and now nobody's ever playing it anymore. And so I think I'm a sentimental, nostalgic little bastard though. So I don't know.
So freestyle, I do think has staying power, and I think DDC is going to stick around too. Clearly golf is just off and running. Ultimate's going to be forever and stuff. So they're going to drag these others along, but that's our job to expose people to it, to tell them there's these other things that are really fun to do too, as well as golf. And when I came back, I moved back to Nashville here to help my parents and my wife's parents, and so I spent a lot of time at home. And for the first time, I started watching YouTube golf videos, and I've been playing for 40 years. I learned a lot watching YouTube golf videos, watching these guys throw their beautiful shots. It's like, oh, I probably can learn to flex two finger at 45, 55 years old.
And then you get the slow-mos and you can see them breaking down the timing.
And just all that exposure that golf is giving people now, week in, week out, with beautiful tournaments and great coverage. Jomez is great, Central Coast. I mean, my wife and I are always talking about who has the best, production team at the tournament. That's great. That's unbelievable. And like you said, Paul came to one of our tournaments in California when he was like a beginner. I forget what division he is,
probably but it was junior,
or something. It was when we were at Emerald Isle, and so he was there. So Paul was at one tournament, but I don't think I've ever met him. But watching these YouTube, it's like, oh yeah, you got a little feel for who Paul is. I know who Conrad is. They do the up close and personal, the little video. Conrad's a juggler. I'm a juggler. It's like, wow. You really do get to know people through that, which is amazing. In freestyle, I go and hang out with them and get to know them, but
it's the same way in
but
disc golf
here
now.
I'm kind of watching them, and it's kind of cool, because you do feel like they're very relatable, and
for the most part, everybody's super genuine too, man. I can tell you honestly, like you see these people on their YouTube channels. I mean, they come to Nashville to play these tournaments, and I hang out with them, and I've become friends with a lot of them, and I mean, what you see is what you get, and that's what really always pulls me back into disc sports, man. It's like it's such a unique, set apart group of people.
And so we haven't spoiled it like that. I don't know. There's always been a debate, put it in the Olympics or not. Do you want to go that big? And I'm kind of the guy. It's like, no, let's keep it our little secret over here. You guys go. but can we do both? Will we lose that? And you do lose with that in the pro level, but then they built their own little network. The NT guys got their own little dream world traveling around touring. So, if you want to get in the sport, you go to your local course and play and be casual and meet people and have a great time. Or you can work your way up there and try to beat Paul, and that's phenomenal that we can do that.
And I think it can exist that way as long as the people, the showrunners, are cognizant of all things. And this is something else I think, lately you're seeing all the companies within the sport that have some money, they're throwing money at the pros and at the NTs and at the USDGC and all these and the media companies to showcase these guys that can throw a country mile and these girls that are really, really phenomenal in their 20s. But it's like, I feel like if we are going to invest actively in this group, we need to pick an underrepresented group or one of the least represented groups and make an equal investment before that group is no longer represented at all. But I have to really go to Tinkletown. Should we take a break real quick? And then we'll come right back and we'll just we'll put a pin in that. We're going to table that for right now. And then after these messages, we'll be.
On the podcast, the last cast.
Blah, 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 blah. Freshly out the bathroom. I feel much better. I'm a new man.
Oh, golly.
It's okay. If you knock this table over, it's pieced together out of random misfit toys. It's all good. Marcus made us a new table out of an old door. And it's dope. He painted it and sanded it and put epoxy on it and all sorts of cool stuff. But we just never can seem to get together to put it in here. I don't know what it is. Where were we? the rebirth of overall, the industry growing, the interactability and reachable, relatable celebrities in our sport. You know, it's another unique thing about disc golf where it's at right now too is the industry is still in such a burgeoning state that any good idea can get you a spot on the road. You don't have to be 1,040 rated. You don't have to be top 10 at every major tournament. If you got the right side hustle, people are going to partner up. People are going to support you for the visibility.
Right, right.
You go around and I mean, there's so many pros today, you know, and it's such a weird thing. Stokely talks about this a lot, but you know, you've got your top 10, top 20 people that are in position at every major event, and they're all like 1,050 rated and all this stuff. And the top women now are pushing 1,000 rated player ratings and stuff. And the ceiling keeps getting higher and higher. But you see like people like where Chris Dickerson was 5 years ago, where he was just cruising around in his region in the Southeast, winning all the C tiers and B tiers and making a nice little living for himself and getting a lot of sponsor support and stuff like that. And then lately, over the last 2-3 years, he's kind of been like, well, maybe I can do all right. And then wins himself a Pro Tour championship and all that. But, you know, Stokely still says you can get on tour just in your corner of the country. And, you know, if you can get close to 1,000 rated, you can make a decent living.
Yeah.
Especially if you got an idea.
I'm still, you know, that part of the golf, you know, part of the world I'm not that familiar with. But Matty O, right? You know, his dad did that little small tournament tour in the South. And
the Southern Nationals.
Yeah, it wasn't even the PDGA, you know.
New promotion. And
so there's still things to be done and made out there in golf for sure. It's got a lot of growth to it, you know. I mean, you can kind of project. You can look at ball golf and see where we're going. Country clubs all over the place, beautiful courses, you know, vacation trips to play disc golf, you know, on the islands. That's where it's going, you know. So look at something that the ball golfers are doing and go make it your career, you know, and convert it to disc golf. I think there's a lot of side hustles that'll work, you know. Whale sacks, you know.
Exactly. That's perfect. I didn't bring it. I almost did, but I always mention Eric and Tina because that's a case in point. It's a case study in having a hustle and making yourself an institution, an established entity within the sport.
And I was in San Diego at the Emerald Isle there in Goat Hill, and AJ Risley was there, and his dad Alan, who, you know, I've known since, you know, he was at the 93 Worlds in Huntsville. And so AJ was 9 or 10 when he first came in the clubhouse. Maybe now he's, you know, a touring pro. And look at him. He's out there. Well, not now with his injuries, but, you know,
he's still a fixture. I mean,
2 or 3 years on the road, you know, was, you know, making a name for himself, but doing, like you said, a good side hustle, trying to make himself maybe into, you know, something else in disc golf, you know. So,
well, his personality.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ is just like, and he's definitely one of my top 5 favorite people on tour just because, you know, and especially you see people like him and Melton and Eric get together and it's just shenanigans, constant antics. And it's just this entertainment factor. AJ's personality and his intelligence shine through in everything he does. And that's why people want him to commentate on stuff and people want to hear his opinion on things because he's articulate. He grew up in the sport. He understands how it works exactly. He's also a character. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes.
So there's a lot of places out there, like you say, a lot of space for people to make a living or make a fun life. Or like myself, I never made a living, but I made a life out of it. You know, traveling and playing and meeting people, and you know that's what it's about. You know, and I think touring, being on the road, you don't have to be full-time touring, but certainly getting out and seeing your country, getting out and seeing the world is so worth it. You know, and especially if you're young. You know, go take advantage of it. Go see the world. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's hard to. I mean, that's another great thing about disc golf, man. We live in a world now where dreaming is not encouraged. It's not having a dream and pursuing it is not the American mode of operation anymore. It's kind of like put your nose to the grindstone, get yourself a house, and
yeah, there's always been that, but you're right. I think there's not enough space for hobbies, not enough space in our life for good recreation. And those things that you do in your hobbies and your recreation is where you tinker, and that's where you invent $1 million idea. You know, the slingshot, you know, the frisbee, all in the garage. You know, even the Microsoft in the garage. You know, tinkering. we don't have enough of that. You know, we need people having more recreation, more hobbies, you know, to be able to, you know, find who they are and invent things.
Stay motivated. And that's the thing is you don't have people talking to each other, and now there's no idle time, or the idle time that is there is being totally swallowed up by distractions and social media and all this stuff, where people used to have idle time and they would get creative. And now we live in a world where you have idle time and it's let's play video games.
You look down at your phone, right?
Right.
Instead of inventing something. But, you know, we can get over that. That's the beauty of Frisbee. I mean, to me, I love something that doesn't have batteries. Frisbee doesn't have a battery, right?
It always works.
Especially
this one, it glows in the dark.
I showed mine collection one time at Orange County Fair, and you know, a million people came through and saw it in these halls and stuff. And I sat back a couple of days and just listened to people talking about, because in my building there's my Frisbee collection, there's a marble collection, there was nothing with batteries.
Yeah.
Everything had, you know, it's like,
you got a closet at your house that would blow any 90s kid's mind. Tell you that, man. You know what we should talk about doing, because I think we're going to have a little indoor space over by where the fly party is going to be for MCO. If you maybe we'd have to figure out the right way to compensate you, but get a collection on display, get some security to stand there and look real intimidating. I don't know, man. I feel
love they're no fun if you don't get to show them off. So I do like showing them off. You know,
I would love to help create some opportunities for you to, because you're exactly right. I mean, it's like one of those things where, like Shantae, my friend the artist that does all the disc dyes and stuff like that. She was on the last episode before DDO, and that was her whole thing. She was like, I don't want to dye one of these just for you to put it in a trophy case. She was like, please throw it. You know, because this art is going to fade away with time, no matter if you throw it or you hang it on a wall. Like this was made to fly, and that's the thing is, and it goes back to that whole kind of principle of we spend our whole lives accumulating stuff, and when we die, we just leave behind a pile of stuff, and nobody, you know, I mean, and it's like that's if stuff like that, collections of things, it's rarely appreciated, and that's why I'm kind of like, let's, as an organization, as as people that are in leadership within disc sports, let's really lay some infrastructure so that we can make sure every state has a disc golf hall of fame or has a disc sports hall of fame. Let's create these museums. Let's give a protected place for all these collections and all these pieces of our history to be appreciated, so that we can pass on those lessons. My whole thing is, and I've known this, I was a history addict as a small child, and it's like, if you don't remember and articulate the lessons of the past, you are very ill-equipped to handle what's coming in the future.
Sure.
And when you look at us growing the way we are with disc sports, we're in prime real estate to let all those things slip that make us who we are.
Well, the other side of it I look at is we're out there. I'm out there. Stork's out there. There's people out there. Mm-hmm. You know, you can hit the road. You can go to tournaments and meet people who have amazing collections or stories to tell. You know, I personally collect because my dad was a pocket knife collector, and I grew up as a picker. You know, basically chasing down rare pocket knives, and it was just natural for me to start chasing down rare Frisbees. And I've been doing it for 40 years. I got good at it. But to me, the Frisbees are just, again, you know, the vehicle which gets me to you, the vehicle that gets me to that guy, to his house, to seeing his collection, to talking to him, to meeting Fred. You know, they're fun to have and everything, but the stories behind them are the stories of history. Exactly. So that's where you kind of cross over, and you know, what's the story of that disc? You know, so
well, think about a perfect example would be all those Frisbee pie tins that you've got in your house. I mean, like the Frisbee pie tin, especially like you look at the old one with just the holes drilled in it, and it's like when they made this, all they were trying to do is have something to hold a pie,
trying to make a living. Right?
Yeah, and then now fast forward 100+ years, and it's like that pie tin is such a symbolic piece of art to us, because it spawned, and unknowingly to anybody that was involved with those pies, now all of a sudden, like that's a piece of our history, like a priceless artifact. And that to me, and you're right, that's the exact thing, is it's not about the object, it's about the impact that object had on human life. and on where, because how meaningful is it, the impact that disc sports have had on our lives? I know for me, and I think a lot of people, you've got injuries, you're in a state of poor physical health, you're getting later into your life, you don't have the same circle of friendship or social interaction, you don't have all these things, and disc sports, falling in love with it, solves all those riddles for everybody.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
And that is something priceless and special, and you can attach that to a cheap piece of plastic. Well, again, this one isn't cheap, but it's here. Yeah. But no, it's just a super special thing, and this is what I always try to point out for everybody, is that's why I do what I do. That's why people in my shoes and in my position do what we do, is because we know the tremendous good that this game brought into our life.
Right.
And we want as many people as possible to have that opportunity.
Right. And it is a self-driven sport. There's not, places that people are teaching you, or clinics or coaching down in Florida at the tennis camps, or it's just us. It's just us teaching our kids. But because golf is so brilliant, it's attracted huge fans, especially during the pandemic. I mean, I just see it growing every year. I see Ultimate growing every year, the rest of my life. And you saw the acceleration in the last few years, So now I got to drag freestyle and, like you say, other events along and stuff, and drag our, us old guys along. We're sitting back watching this and like, wow, man, cutting edge, for sure. In the early days, here in the 80s, people looked at me a little sideways,
Yeah.
And now, it's like, the $10 million man, it happened pretty quick.
The power of an idea.
Yeah.
But, and then you think about, who knows where it's going to be 5 to 10 years from now. That the thing you showed me, Ed's little protest to the PDGA in regards to the beveled edge disc and the advancement of disc technology. He was, in retrospect, you look back at the extravagance of that example, and maybe he was a little off base with where he saw things going and in his response to it. But you do see a grain of truth there, because now we're at a point where people that are running things in the game are having a very real debate about how is the advancement of disc technology and the gear within the sport, like, it's pigeonholing us in a lot of ways.
And killing courses, the old short course, it's
like planned obsolescence all of a sudden, or unplanned obsolescence, but it's rapid.
And that's very difficult. You look at ball golf, they struggle with that so much. The coefficiency of the face of the titanium, and you never end that argument in golf and stuff. You just got to build something we all agree to, and just go at it.
And that's another interesting thing, is that parallel between golf and disc golf, because disc golf is golf. It is the game of golf,
right? But
there are certain. I feel like everybody is always reaching for that parallel, is even where it doesn't exist.
Right.
And even when it's apparent to certain people that it doesn't exist there, they're still trying to chase it down. It's like, do the targets need to be smaller? And some people say, well, you're talking about making the target smaller because you're trying to increase the drama on the green, but the green isn't where the drama in disc golf is. The green is off the tee, or the drama is off the tee pad in disc golf.
It is more of a shot, yeah.
And so it's, what are we really arguing about here? And then when the very simple fact is, every 6 months, the guys and girls at the top 10 of the player ratings are throwing farther than they did 6 months ago, and with the same discs. And new discs are coming out. You got over 100 PDGA approved manufacturers with full lineups now. I mean,
wow.
Where's the ceiling there? Well, the ceiling might just be the fact that all of a sudden we can't get plastic anymore. Too many people want Frisbees. Now the polymer list has become like the hop list for breweries. If you're not buying all the hops and spending millions of dollars on your hops, you're at the bottom of the totem pole and you can't get anything. You're getting the crappy hops and a little bit of them if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And now you look at people that are, I was about to do a Freudian slip almost, but like a legacy institution like Legacy Discs and Steve Rico. Steve Rico is a smaller outfit. He's not trying to get his hands on as much plastic, so he gets priced right out. And now that's the thing, we can't control how supply and industry and all that stuff. But I don't know, man. Who's to say where it's going to be in 5 to 10 years? But my thing is, maybe I'm freaking out a little bit unnecessarily about us losing history and losing love and stuff like that. But I think the key is we have to be cognizant that those are important things to us.
And like you say, document it. We have to, have people talking about it and show. I don't know if you saw the invisible string. They came around. They went to Kirkland's house. They documented a little bit of that. So, that's part of our job is just to take notes along the way.
Right.
Leave them for the future generations.
Well, that was always the idea behind doing the podcast. Was let's have these conversations and get these stories out and put them there in a way so that people can always come back to them. And there's a record of it.
So my adventure to Fred was just about that because there was a lot of discussion about who and what and exactly how the first Frisbee went down and who actually designed it and who had ownership of it. And there was a lot of stories. So when I got to Fred, I started asking him some of those questions, about Francione and his interpretation of different things. And he was, I think he was, I want to say 82 years old when we got to his house, and he had just gotten his first computer. So what's Walter Fred Morrison do when he gets his first computer? Looks up the history of Frisbee, and he didn't like any of it. He didn't like the current story. So he went out to write a book. Sometimes you just got to go set this record straight yourself, and we got those stories in freestyle, who's this, who did that, and who invented this. And, people are trying to quantify a lot of that now. Who invented moves, who first came up with that. And, it's hard to do because East Coast, West Coast, Europe, we kind of invented things at the same time. Now, I was clearly behind all those pros, but that didn't mean I didn't invent it in my yard. I did, trick throws, catches, I was working on that before anybody told me anything about it. I was trying to delay it before anybody told me that there was a sport or anything other than just a toy. But lots of people did.
Nothing new under the sun.
I was just 10 years behind them.
Right.
But then I discovered them and we're off to the races now. I want to go do that.
And how cool is that? There's a whole group of people that came up with this on their own too.
That's what blew me away.
These are my people.
That's what blew me away. That's the way I felt. I wouldn't know what.
I was a man without a country, and then I found my country.
Exactly.
But that's another thing is we are the island of misfit toys. I think everybody comes to disc sports from a place where they're lacking in something, or they feel a lacking of some kind. Like there's some kind of a void that they're trying to fill, and whether it's the social aspect of it, or it's the physical activity, or the competitiveness. I mean, those are all holes that I think, especially for men, and I don't mean to typecast or just single out men or women. I'm a man, and so my experience is that of a man. But I know that there are expectations and obligations and norms and responsibilities that are placed on you as an adult male in our society. And there are also needs that an adult male has. And that's, a fraternity, a brotherhood, a physical outlet, a chance to be competitive.
Well, everybody needs those, but you're right. I think they take different forms in that, hunter and gatherers, maybe.
But
for sure.
Those are I don't know. And it's probably the same exact thing for women too. Is they get a chance, especially now that there are more women playing the sport. We can all play together and enjoy it together. But I think, as more women play the sport, it's good to have more people that you can relate to and have some time away.
You get a good mix, I see, in players, men that want to be pro, want to compete, want to dominate, want to take money, cash at the course, and then people are just rec players. And I think same with the women. I see some women that are very, dedicated and want to win, and then other just recreational players. And that's a beauty. We have a good mix of both. You can do whatever you want to do.
And we can all come together and play on the same field.
And in freestyle, if you think about women gymnastics players versus men, there's really not a whole lot of difference in technical skills. Women can compete in freestyle exactly like a men. There's maybe a little power difference, but maybe not,
Well, it's not a game of power, really. It's a game of finesse.
It's not a game of power, but you become very powerful as you play it.
Yeah.
Your body toughens up like nothing else. And so, we actually open up, our sport is open pair. So you can be a man or a woman and play in pairs. Co-op is open to women. And then we have mixed pairs, which is obviously men and women. So our divisions are completely open to women. We've had a woman win our pro open. Gina Sample won the mixed pairs. Won the open pairs with Rodney. So women can compete in our sport on an equal playing level or pretty close to it. And then when we jam, it's completely equal. I play with just as many men and women when I'm on the beach.
Yeah,
it's equal. It's just let's play.
I was about to say I could almost see there being an advantage to women being like that. Their build is a little bit less obtrusive.
Actually, they have a lot more skill in dance. They've had a lot
exactly.
more.
They're more graceful. They're a little bit more flexible.
Things, and we come in like me. I can't speak for all of them. I come in like a Neanderthal. I'm not going to point my toes. I'm not going to have clean lines. I'm going to get over there and catch that disc before it hits the ground. Is what I'm going to do. So So there are people like Dottie Rhodes who was the most classical player we've ever had, perfectly pointed toes and perfect, and then we have people who are just brilliantly buoyed, strong players. They're not pointed, but they just do amazing tricks. It's like you look at snowboarders, skateboarders. You're not looking at their toes pointed. Did they grab the rail? But it's how hard is that trick? That's what ours is about. How hard is that trick? And then being able to pull it off to the music or whatever you're trying to do that trick to the wind or something. I've had tournaments that I walked into and I'm like, we're the dominant team here. All of a sudden we go out there and there's a 40-mile-an-hour wind and the mud becomes that deep and,
all bets are off.
Our world-class routine is not going to work in 3 inches of mud. It's just, it's not set up for that. It's fast and quick and foot speed. And so I've gone to places like, the weather just completely took me out of my comfort zone, not comfort zone, but winning, in some level. And then you think about freestyle. One thing in golf, you control a lot of it. In freestyle, you can't control your partner. You can't control the wind. Can't control the surface, the grass, how wet, dry,
A lot of variables.
You can't, it's self-judged, so you can't control the judges. It's like to win on top of that when you have so little control. And I tell people in our sport, you can't win by that much. You got to dominate. You got to crush the field. So if you ain't
first, you're last.
Yeah, it's us and nobody else. You saw that, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun in our sport. There are so many things you can't control. I've literally been at the U.S. Open and they cut my music off in the middle of the routine. It's like
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot over.
We got another 60 seconds. And then you're dead in the water. Now you're not.
Where do you restart? Your timing's off. Your routine's boned.
It's terrible.
How does the judging work with freestyle? How many panelists? What's the point system?
Traditionally, we're changing a lot. We've changed it, but traditionally it's been 9 judges, and you have 3 categories. You have artistic impression, you have difficulty, and you have execution. Execution is, did you drop it? Did you bobble it? Did you, just screw up? That's execution. And AI is kind of variety. Music interpretation, new moves, what are you bringing? What's artistic interpretation? And then difficulty is, did you just not pull off the hardest move we've ever seen? That's a 10, So those 3, we combine them and give you a score. The our current generation of players are getting the dials. They're like, so we're doing these things that are electronic now rather than a hand score, so we'll see how they can work.
We're going that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yours is
digital scoring.
Digital, because you have live scoring on the thing. This is like you're doing a.
Oh, you actually have a
scale. So you're like, he's getting better. Oh, that's a 9. Oh, he dropped it back to a 4. Now a 5.
Oh, dude, that's cool.
And that adds up your overall difficulty score during that segment. So you're judging the difficulty on it.
Man,
so it's interesting.
Is there a live monitor of that? To what the dial's doing?
They have that on their computer. We haven't got technical enough to broadcast it.
Dude,
out
that's
to
the
world.
move, though, man. That's where you really bring the audience in, is with flashy graphics like that, where you've got a dial that's going yellow and red when you're getting real hot in the zone, Yeah.
So a little bit of that, and then a little bit of having good commentators that can kind of describe and tell people what's going on, yeah, we're getting better at all of that, at promoting it like that. And the beauty of the electronic is how quickly it is. There was a time in the day where we'd get our scores. It'd take us an hour to tabulate them up.
Oh, yeah. There was a time when I did that too.
Exactly.
And then J. Ray looks at me and goes, "So what's payout?" And I go, they gave us money, we give them money. What are you talking about? No, what is it though? It's payout, J. Ray. Duh. No, I mean, like, what is the payout for this tournament? I don't know. You're speaking Greek to me right now, bro. Oh, you mean how much money? I thought you were going to figure that. But no, I mean, that's how do they select judges? Is it like
so it's self judged. So we usually have 4 pools. So you would have A and B judge each other, C and D judge each other, and
so
then
it's kind of self-policed.
The people who got eliminated judge the next. So the finals are judged by the people who didn't make it to the finals.
Right. Yeah. That creates a little bit of a conflict of interest, no?
Yeah, no. Or even in the prelims when, if they don't get it out of their pool, they can't beat you in the finals.
Can you ever tell that the people judging that didn't make the cut? Can you tell they're salty?
The East German bloc every year. Those Russians.
I don't know. Those guys that didn't make the cut, their dial's looking awfully green in this final round.
So that's really, really a challenge because it's so. I shouldn't say it's so clear cut, but distance is clear cut. Golf, I don't know if you foot faulted or not. The more rules you get in there, the trickier it is. So freestyle's tough, and we have no rules, and yet we judge you anyway. It's like, okay, now judge a Picasso versus a Cezanne. You can't do it. So
I know you're heavily involved in the FPA and stuff, and so to me that reads a little unfair.
It does.
Does not feel that way to you?
Absolutely. Until we figure out a better mousetrap, it's unfair.
So have you? I mean, I'm sure you have ideas on how that could work better. What about selecting a panel of judges before the event?
We've tried all-star panels and stuff. We're just not big enough to do that yet. Yeah. There will be a day where we can have like I could go and judge the Worlds, and we could pay in people like me who are experienced. Because you'll never be able to judge the nuances of what they're doing difficulty-wise. It's just so many things you're taking in so fast. But, yeah, I think we'll get to the day of having celebrity judges. But right now it's still us and us alone. And it's good in the sense that when you have new players come along, so you come to our tournament, if you're in golf, you watch Paul do a flag shot or something beautiful. In our tournament, you sit down and you sit with another pro and you judge them and you talk about it. And that's a teaching tool.
Right.
So as we are bringing people up through the judging ranks, we're totally educating them. So it has its good side too. In the old days, when Wemo had a lot of money, it was more cutthroat. And when all Wemo money left, then it was just volunteers like me and you, and we ran tournaments, and kind of all that went away. People didn't want to, be so judgmental on another team. There's a lot more pure judging today than it was back when they were a little more cutthroat. Now that could go away, and we've done a lot of variables to keep people's judging in control. In other words, if I hated you, I could give you a 0-0-0. You're not going to make it to the finals, but I can't do that because I can't give zeros out.
Right.
So we have things to, try to
checks and balances.
Yeah, but it's still complicated. But it's also judging art. I mean, what's the best song last
year?
Who
qualifies to judge that?
Yeah, what's the best song? I mean, you could argue country.
I don't like that song.
And
so
yeah, so it's very difficult like that. And we're just, like I said, when I'm out there performing, I can't even control that.
Do you feel like it's a problem with the way the rules are built, or with the audience, or with the availability? Well, what do you think is the main drawback to not finding a more efficient way to judge it?
Just not having qualified judges, just not having enough qualified.
Do you think
judges
that creating a system of qualification or some sort of a certification, do you think that would?
Well, because we're still so small, we can't bring those people on. I can't go to Europe.
There's no incentive.
I can't, there's nobody paying me to go to Europe, to Germany to judge a tournament. There's nobody paying me to go to California to judge U.S. Open. So it has to be the players right there.
Yeah.
So we just utilize the players right there. And
well, I mean, that's kind of a similar thing to disc golf, because you see, I mean, like, the way I feel about the rules is like, I mean, there are for sure some flaws, and maybe not the rule book, but, well, there are. But, I mean, mainly like the competition manual, the tour standards, there's some things I think that could be adjusted to more accurately meet the needs of today. But the one thing is, I feel like there are situations constantly that develop on the field at these tournaments that are dramatic and they get the entire disc golf world doing the buzz on social media, when there's some sort of conflict or dispute on the field at one of these tournaments and it's caught on coverage, and every time I see one of them, I'm always thinking to myself, like, this could have been totally avoided if they had done what the rules say and come to an agreement before they proceeded to the next tee pad. You know, it's like the problem happens when people are walking off of one hole onto another hole and not all of the group is in agreement on how that's scoring and how that happened. And maybe somebody, their shot is in question and they haven't played a provisional, and then minis are getting picked up and one person is left out in the cold, like shouting into the darkness, excuse me, what are we doing here? There are rules. And then, of course, you come down to kind of a similar argument where, well, maybe we need to have a marshal or an official on these cards. And it's like, well, where are you getting these marshals? And how much are you paying them? And where are you getting the money? I mean, you're already volunteer short.
And that's always, look at Ultimate. They tried to go out there and had the spirit of the game, and it was a self-judged, sport for years and years and years until they became, until they finally had to give it up for the pros or something, and they got officials. But they tried to keep it pure. And I noticed that in golf the other day in watching a video where who calls foot faults? Well, maybe one player, but the other two players don't want to be that guy, Well,
see, and this is another problem.
Yeah, that's a self-judging thing.
Let's be adults and let's understand that, hey, if we're competing in a sport at the top level of this sport, we need to be man or woman enough to not only make a difficult call, but to have a difficult call called on us. And sack up and don't react emotionally and be like, no, I did not foot fault. Like, hey, I'm reasonable enough as a person to say, maybe I did. I mean, like, I don't know. We're probably decades away from an instant replay being, usable on the field.
Like they are in ball golf, because they got cameras on every hole.
But this is the thing. If you look at the rules, if nobody on the card says that it was a foot fault, then it wasn't a foot fault. You could watch Ricky foot fault on post-produced coverage all day long, and it's foot fault.
Nobody's gonna call it.
Well, Nico didn't call it. Right. He would have if he'd seen it.
If it'd been there.
So one, you're either not paying close enough attention, as you should be if you're competing at that level. I mean, everybody's responsible for making sure the scores are accurate, making sure that everything plays out the way it should be. And like Big Dog always says, provisional. But you see these issues happen all the time, and
so that's just part of sport.
Yeah, growing pains.
Yeah. You just have. I mean, look at the NFL.
It just seems like the waters are so much more murky and freestyle.
Of course, but look at the NFL. They can't even decide what a catch is.
All right, now, well, that's NFL. Pro football has become a joke in the last 10 years.
And so the more you do it, the more it just gets broken. So sometimes keeping it softer and simpler is better.
Well, that's why I like the self-policing approach.
Yeah. And I do too. And so, in ball golf, they always tried to make it, a gentleman's sport, and you call your own. And, we try to do that in Frisbee golf as much. But, most of our sports don't teach us that. It's try to get away with everything you can. And if the referee didn't see it, get away with it. But I never played that way. That's not my style.
Well, and that's the thing is, to me, and I don't know, maybe I'm expecting too much of others, but I feel like if I realize I might have done something wrong and I've got an edge now because nobody else noticed it, like I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. That doesn't sit right with me. I feel gross.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a shower for the rest of the round.
Right. And that's the way most people are. So, we don't worry about that.
But here's the thing, man.
We know.
There are snakes in the grass. There are sharks in the water. And it's been happening recently. I won't go into detail or name names or anything. But, people do some really crazy stuff. Stokely talks about a person who was very prominent in the early days of disc golf in California, just randomly one day falsifying a CTP prize to take some money, and disappeared with the money. But of course, he made like maybe $80, and he's no longer welcome in disc golf.
Yeah, what is that about? Right?
So, like, what's the trade-off there? But I mean, people come to me because I've been administrating a large club. I've been running the tournaments. I'm doing all this stuff. People come to me expecting me or asking me straight up to discipline these people, and I'm like, it's not up to us to discipline them or me to discipline them. I can't kick them out or anything. It's up to them in the community, because eventually those people get weeded out.
Yeah, sure.
They either figure it out or they get pushed out.
And they get weeded out in ours. If we, in judging and stuff, you see sometimes, that's odd, and you deal with it. But generally, we've been pretty good about that. And that's always been really hard. Judging has been the hardest part of our sport, because just so many variables.
What's like what is like an average, or not average, but like one of the biggest freestyle tournaments? What's the purse like?
Ooh, not very
Not
good.
big. I can't
Not
imagine it would
very-
be.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just wondering, like, is the sponsorship to entry fee ratio kind of comparable? Maybe not. I mean, I'm saying to scale, but
Yeah. It's not about money for freestyle.
Well,
that's
for sure.
We get a little bit here and there, but it's very little. It's what we make it ourselves. For me personally, I've made a lot more money doing frisbee shows. I've done shows for Exxon and Apple, and living in California, I could do frisbee shows at hotels, and come in and I'm their beach party entertainment. Me and Gidget over here or something. So I did tons of shows and made money like that. We did NBA games and halftime games. I've done Holiday Bowl before. I've done the Sounds games here back when I was in town. So we can make money if we want to make money. We can go out and do shows and stuff.
showcases.
Just book ourselves into
Exhibitions.
corporate affairs.
Demos.
I've been over to Vegas and done pool party shows and done tons of California beach scenes and things like that. So we can sell ourselves a lot of different ways. So you can make money like that. Kind of, I look at that part of it as, I think we're more akin to jugglers. Jugglers have been around for 2,000 years, and they get on TV, they make money and stuff, but they're not, there's not a world-class juggling tour that you know of, but they do make money, street shows in public, and, you get the Michael Motions who are phenomenal jugglers and stuff that make real money and stuff. But it's teach yourself and get what you can, and maybe even invent something that'll make you some money someday, or not.
I don't know if you can smell the wood burning, but I got my gears turning, man, and I can't help. And I beat this dead horse all the time, but and the example is usually with age protected disc golf. As I'm always saying, let's put some cameras on the Masters. People are saying there's no interest, and I'm saying, well, plating, presentation.
Yeah.
There
will be, because there's more people like me watching it. So that,
and I can't help but think that if you got one of these really, pardon the unintentional faux pas or whatever, dynamic media companies that's got a lot of cool graphics and really clean production, and you put them like in charge of showcasing something like freestyle, I mean, I can't help but think that would catch on. I can't help but think
it's
that
coming.
Yeah.
I think it is. I really.
It's
do.
got to be. I mean, that's too much fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's too much fun to play. So
right. But that's one of those things too. I mean, like, you can watch somebody that's not that great at freestyle and be like, "Whoa, dude, that's cool."
Yeah. And the cool thing is, as you get better and better, it looks easier. So,
Oh, yeah.
As we get really smooth, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's not hard. Yeah, try it."
Yeah, it's like you watch me play disc golf. I look like I'm working real hard, and that disc only goes 300 flat. We won't go there. But what is your if you had to give one flying disc story that you hold most dear to your heart from all those years running around and gunning? I mean, and I've got so many things. We're gonna have to do like 2 or 3 of these to really kind of like get everything out. But I know, like, you've had so many cool stories. I mean, there's tons of world championship trophies hanging out at your house. There's the painting. Tell everybody about that painting. That's very iconic.
So the FPA has been spreading the jam, and by doing that, we've got to go to further countries. So we went to Europe and started spreading the jam. They're like, let's go to South America. So they picked Medellin, Colombia. How, I don't know, but
I know how.
So there was a little group of ultimate players down there, and we took the world championships to Medellin, Colombia, and Pablo Azul is a player down there. I think he came from Ultimate. I'm not even sure, but he started playing. Soccer players.
Pablo.
Soccer players are really good at foot speed, so they make really good, because foot speed in freestyle is everything. How strong you are. Starting with just how centered you can be, how you can stay centered. And so he developed himself into a really good freestyler really quick. A whole group of them did down there. There's a lot of freestylers. So they went down to the Worlds. The next thing you know, Pablo is now our official painter of the tour. He is painting these really wonderful interpretive paintings of freestyle and a little bit of everything. He does a lot of work doing bicycles and parades and things like that. But he started painting all of us players, and we all fell in love with his abstract painting. So I think we put him on the road because we just all started buying our paintings. It's like, hey, do one of me or whatever. So he's done, all the top pros.
Okay.
He's done a painting of us and T-shirts and stuff. And so I'm like, oh yeah, you got to get one of his paintings. They are so awesome. And to watch his videos of him painting, he literally takes paintbrushes in both hands and just goes at the canvas. Huge canvases, huge painting. He's very abstract, very. I just love the guy's work, and you saw it. It's really fun. He interprets color really well and movement really well, and so.
Well, and I got the unique experience of being able to see like the source photograph of you doing the demo in the gymnasium. That was it. Where was that at?
That was actually Santa Cruz. That was Tom
Dela?
Schatz's Tom Schatz's tournaments.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, you were easily 7-8 feet off the ground.
Okay,
legs,
4, but
okay, maybe, but it looked
top or bottom.
down angle. But legs spread out, reaching up under, grabbing it, and this was not that long ago. You were getting major elevation for a guy that's as seasoned as you, and it's like this crazy athletic motion, perfect still photograph, and then you look at the painting, very abstract. But the colors, like you said, it really translated the energy of that motion, of that moment, and the painting is impressive. And then on a shirt, it looks great. It's like something you'd see in a gift shop at a zoo or something. It's like
totally amazing player. So you look him up on Facebook, Pablo Azul.
Pablo Azul.
And what else was I gonna say? He lost my train there.
Yeah.
But we'll come back.
So favorite story.
Yeah.
I led you up, and then I talked.
Well, what I was thinking about Pablo is because he won our tiny room challenge. I want to kind of throw this in there now. So because we've been on the pandemic, we canceled all our tournaments, because we're face to face touching each other when we're playing and stuff.
Throwing spit and sweat.
Yeah, all over the disc and your hand, whatever. So we canceled that. So they started doing tiny room jamming. Now they'd kind of been doing that as practice tapes and stuff. Go in a little room like this and try to play without hitting the ceiling fan and knocking all your trophies off. And so when the pandemic hit, James and Daniel just said, we're going to make tournaments wherever you are. So they're all over the world, and we do them live. The Tiny Room Challenge, you have 30 people on Zoom, and you get 10 seconds to do one move, and you against one other person. And Pablo won one of them, so he's moved up. He won one of the Tiny Room Challenges. So go check that out on YouTube. And I'm not sure when our next one's coming up, but it'll be coming up in a month or two now. And so we have juniors. That's where we're trying to spread the sport. It's having a lot of foreign countries play in this. So somebody from Spain is playing somebody from Africa. It's really been incredible. So we're getting not a lot of people, but people everywhere playing.
There's momentum.
Yeah, so that's good. Like I said, we're never going to have big numbers. We just need to have numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're moving in the right direction, and that's the thing, man. And again, I mean, there's a theme developing here, but growth numbers aren't everything. I mean, like you can have all the growth, and you can have thousands and thousands of people flooding in, but if the infrastructure isn't there, or if it's not presented in the right way, those people, it's going to be a flash in the pan, and you're not going to have the retention, and those numbers aren't going to bear fruit.
And for us, we're still a family, so we're just, generally smaller is more intimate, and we're not looking for a big group. We're looking for the right group. We're looking for quality,
the most passionate.
Yeah, the quality of the top level. We want to get together, and now we want other people coming up to that, but it's still, a small room for us, and we're happy with that, because it's a beautiful world to travel. I went to Italy and. Rimini to play in the Worlds in 2003, and just to go to a country that I don't know anybody and have 30 people welcome me and another 150 come around and party with us, and then 2,000 people in the stands. It's like, wow, I don't know a single person yet. I'm totally welcome in this country and in this city and in this moment, and that's incredible. Be able to travel and just show up in these cities and be welcomed and loved, and and get to play in their world, and then head back to the States or somewhere.
And that's something that I think is universal to all disc sports, because I know it's true for disc golf. You could be in a totally random place and go on the disc golf course, and you're among friends.
Yeah. And now you can just tell people I'm going to be there, and you show up and you make new friends. So it's incredible. And that's where the web has really helped the sport, spread the sport and get us connected more. Like I said, when I first started, that I didn't even see video of people. And now you can learn every trick on YouTube if you want to.
Yeah.
So, or try to learn. They're hard.
So the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you and your core group kind of created the FPA and are bringing that, or did you come alongside the FPA and kind of add your expertise? Because I know you're heavily involved. And correct me again if I'm wrong, but because of COVID and everything, you have been on deck to be the newest inductee into the Hall of Fame, the FPA Hall of Fame, for quite a while, and it keeps getting. We're hoping for fall of 2021. Yeah, we're got our fingers crossed for fall of 2021. But I mean, you've been heavily involved with the FPA for quite some time, trying to revitalize that.
Well, the FPA, Freestyle Players Association, came along in 1980, and basically it was just a players' union. Whammo totally controlled everything, and we invented new plastic, and we wanted to play with the new plastic because it was better than the Whammo plastic. So Dave Marini started the FPA, and we've been running, for years, and had some really good years. When Whammo money was out there, and the golden years, shall we call them, and then, in the 80s, Whammo quit running the U.S. Opens. Whammo quit running the NASs. All the tours just kind of went away. And so golf was taking off, so it could just step right in. Ultimate, but where are we going to go? Where's my tournament director? Where's somebody running a freestyle event? So it had dwindled down to a very few handful of people. So I was in there, and I kind of brought it to San Diego, and along with Bethany Sanchez and Dave Murphy and Dave Schiller, and we just had a crew. That crew of San Diego that I showed up with, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're the most active group. We're the biggest group. Why aren't we helping make this? So I brought it to San Diego, and we did rechartered it and got it to 501c3 nonprofit, and we had a couple winter meetings where we changed the judging rules, and we came up with the branding, and we came up with Spread the Jam, and literally from that day forward, we started to grow the new sport. Now the first freestyle group was heavily with Whammo money and had that big sponsorship and all that. And when that went away, who's going to fill it in? And we kind of filled it in with players. There's no manufacturer like you guys got, Innova and Discraft and wonderful manufacturers. We got nobody. Discraft doesn't even know who I am, and I've won 11 world championships with their disc. They don't even know me. So, there's a whole different world.
And that's weird too.
I thought, they've sponsored me over the years, but, Kenner was a freestyler. He was our first freestyle. He was a freestyler.
And that makes it even weirder that he was a freestyler.
And he invented our great disc, and he kept us in plastic, and he takes care of us, but it's just so little money compared to golf.
True.
The millions of plastic that's going out the door in golf we still got to make that disc for those guys.
The dollar's got to make sense.
Yeah, and it doesn't there. But they still take care of us, and believe it or not, we're still using the same mold. We haven't come up with a better mousetrap since 1980. The disc we played in the 80s is what I play with today. It's perfect.
Well, explain this, because people know the Ultra Star from Ultimate, but tell them about the disc that you guys is the preferred.
So the Ultra Star is an Ultimate disc, and it was patterned after the Whammo 165, the 80 mold and stuff. Well, when freestyle came in, we needed a flat surface with flat on top and flat and a tall rim. We just needed a different design slightly from those traditional discs. So we did it, and we hadn't needed to change it yet. I mean, it's like you don't need to change juggling balls. They still work,
Yeah.
So this still works, Now we do play in different winds. I play with heavier ones or lighter ones or.
What is the mold called? What is it?
Discraft Sky
Styler. That was what it was.
Styler.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's 160 gram. But as you know, in golf, they shoot them and they vary. They're lighter and heavier. So, and we've had runs that were terrible and runs that were great, runs that were just perfect. Just like in golf, you get a CU run that everybody wants, and then they go away.
And if they come from Innova, they put it on the scale. It says 185. They go, whoa, and they write 179, and they put it back in the pot.
Yeah. I'm not going to speak bad of any manufacturer, but
no, I'm not speaking bad. I'm just saying, if I was the guy on the line and I weighed it and it said 185, and I was like, oh crap,
keep going.
Anybody see that? Nope. All right.
So Kenner and Discraft, we just don't have enough market share to matter to them and stuff. And
I don't think anybody but Paul McBeth has enough market share to matter to Discraft.
Well,
these days.
their products do for sure.
Yeah.
And they've been around. They started making Discraft. Started making. I remember when the Sky Street came out. I took that disc and threw it. Day one, and so they've been there making plastic all along. But and funny, like you said, we put Kenner on the map. Our disc is the one that. So he's got good stories. I've heard stories about him, but about how Discraft got started. I'll leave that for somebody else. But that's a great story.
Is he still? I know he's not really he's not the guy in charge per se anymore. But
yeah, he's pretty much turned it over to other people. I hear he's lives comfortably in his retirement in this. A new comfortable life, yes.
I also find it hard to believe that somebody like him of his stature and his place in the sport could just walk away and not be doing anything.
Life changes, Money makes you want to go play on the beach.
Yeah, that's true too.
Money makes you want to go fishing, go have fun.
I know it's Bob Julio and somebody else over there now that are.
Yeah, I don't really know anybody at Discraft anymore. I go through Bill Wright. I go through the FPA. We do our own scene, so I'm personally not dealing with them and stuff. They make our FPA, our Hall of Fame disc. They're gonna make me a Hall of Fame mini. I mean, they make it for everybody, but the Discraft is still the one making all the stuff for us. Yeah,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's good. They're helping us.
Scott was super stoked. I had sent him a couple pictures with no real description of what was going on, but one of them was me holding up that arrow, and one of them was a couple other things from your collection. And he was like, "That's got to be at Joel's house." I was like, "Yeah, that's Joel's stuff." Man, it's crazy. To me now, the podcast is a weird thing. I mean, in a lot of ways, but it was only partially even my idea to start it. And then the people that were initially, it's like Jay's still here with me, but it was kind of like me and Alan Posey, the president of the club before me. And I was just kind of talked into it. And I was immediately like, yeah, it's a good idea. And I know how to do the recording and all that stuff. So we should try and do it. And then it finally happened. But I never knew that man, the conversations and the stories that I've been privy to and the opportunities that it's presented, because now me and you are friends, and we've had a handful of conversations, but they're some of the best conversations I've ever had. And I got to see some priceless stuff at your house, and thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to see some of that stuff, because I was I drove away from there, perfect silence, just what just happened? What is happening in my life right now? And I'm looking at the passenger seat at this guy right here in the passenger seat. I'm like, oh my gosh. This is going straight to the Sapphire Lounge. Check that out. It's super cool. But no, I mean, that's what's because I know you've got to have ambitions too, and I know you've got ideas and stuff. I know that you are kind of trying to figure out how to get back to California, and life has been thrown. Or not Oregon, trying to get back to Oregon. And,
definitely California, but we don't tell our friends yet.
Well, we're not
telling
well,
everybody.
if you've lived in California, you're trying to figure out how to get back to California. So that's not that. The
True.
writing's on the wall,
True.
Joel. It's not that much of a secret. But no, I know that you've had life has been throwing you curveballs for a while now, and you guys have had some things on your plate that have kept you from being able to do what you want. So you do whatever you want now. But what's next for you with disc, with flying disc stuff? I mean, obviously the Hall of Fame stuff coming up. You're going to keep playing freestyle.
Yeah, to me, it's still playing. That's it. You just got to keep playing. So obviously, I'm gonna travel. I'm going to a little beach tournament soon, and then we'll do Virginia States, and then I'll get back at the Beach Stylers, which will be in the fall, and then hopefully we will have a Hall of Fame ceremony this year. And there's another beach. So all I want to do, my ambition is to go jam on the beach, and so jam with great players. So we have that, Santa Barbara. We got a great little group there. I think they're running the tournament. So,
and what a beautiful place.
Santa Barbara is awesome. Yeah, it sure is. Expensive, but beautiful.
California.
Yeah, right,
anywhere in California.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
urban
bring that
sprawl
up.
from San Bernardino to the water.
So I don't have any real ambitions other than to continue doing what I'm doing, which is being an ambassador for Frisbee and freestyle and any disc sports, and tell my stories and go around being Johnny Appleseed and giving away discs and visiting people's grottos and looking at their toys. That's fun. You never know what you find, and and then the stories come out, and that's what it's about for me. My good friend Larry Imperiali said, life is about being engaged, and it's like getting in there and doing it. And that's what you can do that with Frisbee. And you have your hometown, which is your local course or your local friends, but that exists across the country. You can go to any golf course, you can go anywhere and hook up with Frisbee players. And next thing you know, I mean, we rarely stay in hotel rooms. We always stayed at friends' houses, for the first years of touring. And that's great. You get to see where they live. Go to Italy, see where they live. Go to Florida and see what it's like. Everybody go to New York and see how they live. And they're all different. We all live in different cities with different things.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, Holiday Inn Express is the same in Belize as it is.
It feels 7-Eleven's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then when you can get away from that and be in people's homes and stuff. So being in a small sport or whatever we want to call ourselves has been real advantage for that, for meeting people on that local level and being in their home and meeting their family, and it's different from being in a hotel. So that's what's great about the size of it right now, for sure. It's still, but the pros, we're hopefully going to have a pro stay with me at my house. So even in golf,
they're coming.
I'm afraid, but
be afraid, be very afraid.
But that's what it's about. I'm going to meet one of the new golfing tours, some young guy I've never met before, and start something, and who knows what'll come out of it. And you do that enough in life, and you have a good life.
Well, you've got a red carpet invitation to stand next to me at MCO and just kind of watch the madness.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited to seeing all the pros come to town, for sure, and playing local courses.
You can help me and Sean Sinclair scan the horizon for dumpster fires.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've gotten really good at smelling dumpster fires a mile away now. But yeah, that's man. It's always just so striking to me how serendipitous everything is, and much like the circle of the flying disc, everything always comes back around. And I mean, if all I ever get out of this work is friendships like you, and being able to have these relationships and these conversations and stuff, that's enough for me. This is, it's just it's a special thing, and it's something that we all hold dear. So to capture these little snippets of it and put it down somewhere in perpetuity it's awesome. I feel humbled to have a position in doing that kind of archiving and curating.
You asked me my favorite story, but I mean, my favorite story is the story, right? It's like meeting Fred, going to California, winning world titles. Winning small titles. I mean, I won a couple small tournaments where I beat people we shouldn't have, and it was like, ooh, I like that, So, and we've all been humble. One thing about it in our sport, you're going to have the day where it didn't go your way. You won and somebody took it away, but we called it getting booshed. You got booshed. You should have won that tournament and you didn't. It happens to all of us. It's part of, but that happens in life. You got a great job and they boost you. You got something going on here and it just ends like that. And you got to deal with those disappointments. And, sports teaches you that, how to deal with crushing losses and huge wins and everything that comes along with it. And, I've been blessed to, start here in Donaldson and win in Tennessee States in freestyle. I don't think I ever won it in golf.
But you got to win, and so you got to TD it. Yeah.
I got close. But then freestyle, I did, I recognized that golf, I would go to a tournament, back then I was traveling all the time. I'd go to these tournaments and I'd get out of my car on Friday and throw around and shoot the best score of the whole weekend. I'm like, what is wrong with that? How come my stiff out of the car score is better than any weekend? So my brain just didn't work out for golf to be successful.
Story of my life, bro.
Or maybe I could have stayed with it longer. I don't know, because you got to learn to go through all those stages. But freestyle, I loved those stages. I loved everything I was getting out of it. Every day, every time, every meeting, every loss, every drop, everything. And it just kept appealing more and more to me. And so Then I got over there, and then I had to learn how to win. You know, you got to learn how to catch. You got to win, learn how to perform in front of people.
Well, there's a skill to winning.
Yeah, it's a
separate
skill.
from the skill of whatever it is that you're doing.
To the point of, you know, when you become a master, you know, you have 3 copies of your music in case they screw 2 of them up. You know,
Right.
you have a backup to everything. You got a plan
Cassette,
B.
CD, 8-track, Bluetooth,
What's
MP3.
this? What's this tape on your CD? Oh,
Crap.
Did that just rip off all your music? Okay. So, you know, things are, you know, it's
Leonard Skinner, fine, right?
and, you know, and then you go to tournaments where it's, you know, show up and it's like, hey, Randy, you want to play there? Yeah, we'll play. What do you want to play to? Music? Okay. You know, got nothing, nothing worked out, and go out there and you win the tournament.
talk.
You know, you win the tournament. You're like, wow, that was a fun weekend. I like that. You know, so, you know, it's great, you know, and then there's the weekends you should have won, you didn't, you know. And
Well, and that's like any meritocracy. I mean,
Yep.
I think of stand-up comedy. They say you can't be a great stand-up until you've bombed
yeah, a lot.
a bunch. And it's part of that getting booshed is part of learning the skill that it takes to win. And it's a totally different mindset.
And learning to control adrenaline, learning to control, you know, the crowd noise and everything that's going on.
And how do you react to the failures? How do you handle it? How do you stand back up? How do you, tuck and roll?
Oh, I just go start playing again Wednesday because, you know.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying it's about how you do that. You know, you don't have to spill the trade secrets.
So, you know, one way is for me, and for me, I'm growing up. I want to win this Tennessee State. Okay, I won that. I want to win the FPA Worlds. But once I won the first Worlds, it kind of took all that pressure off my back. And from that moment on, I still had a 20-year career after that. But I didn't have that pressure. It was more for me and my satisfaction. And if I didn't live up to my satisfaction or something happened, so be it. You know, I still got a trophy on my shelf. And if I get another one, now I got 2. So after the first win, I was able to take them a little more gracefully, the bushes and the bad days. There's still a couple that sting really bad, but you know, you become the recipient of the bush. You won that tournament when you weren't supposed to. And now that trophy's sitting on your case, and you think about that every time. You know, it's like, okay, the one that got away and the one I caught. And
let's say you start out and you get booshed for 6 years. And you get used to booshing, and then all of a sudden you win one, and you weren't ready for it, and you act like an intolerable prick. Like, oh yeah, suck it. I'm the greatest that ever lived. Oh, how you like me now? And then nobody wants to play with you anymore. And then the next tournament, DFL, humble pie, egg on face, open mouth, insert foot.
I don't remember that one.
I've never had a win, so I don't ever have to worry about it. My whole thing is, I'm just like you said, like my brain does weird things. I play my best in the most miserable conditions. Like I remember we went and played Chadens on the Links at Saudi Daisy one year. Shout out to Kevin Turner, my dog. And it was like the first round, it was 30 degrees, sideways wind, 30-mile-an-hour wind, like just absolutely miserable. By 13 holes in, every stitch of clothing was soaked, and my hands were freezing and pruned. It hurt to put them in my wet pockets. It was just like so. But I was the only person that could make a disc fly straight. I shot one of my highest rated rounds in 3 years in those conditions. And then second round, the sun comes out. I forgot how to golf. Like, go figure that out.
Sports, they're wonderful, aren't they?
Yeah, but again, it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's like, the lessons you learn pursuing greatness.
My other way of dealing with, disappointing losses or disappointment or whatever is being a balance. I do a lot of things. I like to go backpacking. I like to go camping. I've rafted through the Grand Canyon, which is an amazing experience, and I actually walked across the Grand Canyon from rim to rim and back 2 days. So that's a good 44-mile round trip one day. You want to try? So for me, if freestyle isn't going my way, I'm going to go out to the park. I'm going to go hiking. I'll just go walk in the woods, there's plenty of nature that makes me happy that, humans can't. And so, I get away, I try to do as much outdoor stuff that's non-competitive, I raft with people who are good, but I'm not good. So I just ride in a boat and try not to drown, things. So, getting away and doing things that are not in your comfort zone and not, what you're building your id on or your ego on and stuff.
Balance.
Yeah, so
The middle
that
path.
helped. And, I've had a nice life balance with Kim and stuff. So, if I'm act too ugly, she'll come home and kick my butt at night
Tune
and
you up.
tell me what I did wrong that day. Unfortunately, there's few good women in the sport that have done that to me. It's like, okay, you got to calm down,
Yeah.
because you do get passionate. You do want to win.
Tunnel vision.
You get excited, and when somebody hurts you, you're excited. They're like, calm down. We're all going to be here
Bring it
tomorrow. Yeah, bring it down. But then, like I said, the good news is I was lucky enough. I teamed up with Schiller and Rick, and we won the Worlds relatively quick after I got to California in '89. I moved there in '87, so within 2 years, 3 summers, I won the Worlds, and then we repeated. And so then I felt like I'm in the club, because I was never in the club. I was always trying to get in, be better. I was never the star athlete in high school or anything. I was an athlete. I was good, but there was, even my best friend here was this phenomenal kid that had real fast twitch muscle that could do anything he wanted to do above. I'm like, wow. So I knew what real athletes did, but that wasn't me. I was just work hard. And then all of a sudden the work hard paid off, and I'm winning tournaments and getting accolades. And, it's like, okay, and that really helped me calm my whole life down. It's like, okay, I've accomplished a little bit over here. And now I can just start not coasting, but it took away that angst and that had to feeling and that really terrible, disappointing feeling. I never, even if I lost, I never felt that again. Like when you're really trying to get there. So once I sort of use the word make it, once I did that, then the rest of it was gravy, because I would go to the tournaments and win or take second or third. I didn't care. I just wanted the tournament over so I could go play with Larry and Dave and Rick. And, literally, we were more excited about getting the tournament over than we were playing in the Worlds.
Yeah.
We want to get to the jam, get to the jazz. So if all else fails, if you drop in that 5 minutes, that's the most critical 5 minutes of your year. You can go play for the next 2 hours and catch everything, and it'll be better.
Yeah. And that's a crucial lesson in that for younger athletes and younger players of all disciplines. I mean, it's momentary things like that can make or break your mindset. And it's so important to take the chance on yourself, to give yourself the opportunity to have that moment of greatness, because you can spend your whole life at the things that people expect of you, and if you are immensely successful at those, it's not going to matter to you. Even if the rest of the world thinks that what you're passionate about is absolutely ludicrous, if you can get one small measure of success out of that, can be like so much more fulfilling. And even if you just get that one little piece and you can tuck that away in your heart and hold that close to you for the rest of your life, that will mean everything. That, then that will give you all the motivation in the world to do everything else that you have to do. I don't know. It's a special thing that we have here with the flying disc. And I mean, I'm always trying to nail down all the intangible benefits of it, but it's a special thing.
I think partly for me, what I've liked is it was not organized, right? I track, football, all that stuff, and freestyle and flying disc was like other people doing things that weren't in any institution or anywhere,
Right.
And I like that. I like that, non, authoritarian anything.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of 20. I mean, I was in college running the Tennessee States. Isn't that a little young? Now I think about that now, and I'm like, but no, I was built to do that at that time, and and it was just the continuation. But main thing is get out there and do it again. It's like what happened yesterday don't matter. It's what you're doing today and tomorrow.
Well, when we talked about finding the art and the poetry in the freestyle, for me, it was like that with running tournaments. It's like once I figured out the procedurals, there was like watching all those moving pieces, all those small parts come together and make the cogs turn. It's like that. There was a fascination with that to me, and that still lights me up when I can put all that stuff in order and then watch it run smooth. It's like, oh, there's nothing better than that. It's like the first time I saw a disc fly like I wanted it to. Mm-hmm. But I know it's getting late. We have done over 2 hours.
Wow, that was fast.
Didn't feel like that at all, right?
No, not for me.
There's like weird time-space continuum stuff happening in the Sapphire Lounge. And go figure, Jay Skinner wasn't here. I didn't have to push the pineapple button one time. I didn't even put up the parental advisory sticker, and I think I only said shit one time. This was
congratulations,
epic success. That was podcast gold. Joel, hang out more often, man. You're going to church this place up. We're not even going to mean to.
I appreciate it. I love being back in my hometown, and I did want to come back and reintroduce myself to the Nashville golf scene because I left in '87 and been gone for years, and I'm back, and it's been fun kind of watching you from the edge. But come in and say hi, and let's share a beer.
Well, I want you to come out to all our events. Come out to Music City Open. I've got some big ideas on how we can plug you into that. But, I definitely am always trying to bring out the people that started all this into the forefront for everybody to see and hear their stories as much as they're comfortable with, because it's, like I said, it's important for people to know where we came from and why what we have is special and worth carrying on.
Well, for me personally, it's been a long career, and to look back and go, oh yeah, what David Eiler did, and and I'm honestly kind of amazed at what we did sometimes, here before I left and stuff. So I do want to put those people together. There's been talk of a Hall of Fame, a Tennessee Hall of Fame, and I think that should continue on. And most states are getting them now. We're 40.
All I need is I need a little help with the logistics,
yeah.
But I got the connections, and if we could get like a location locked in where we could actually put some stuff up on display, like, man, that's in the ultimate works, the grand scheme of things for me.
Yeah, sure. I think mostly in Frisbee now we're so virtual. The new museum, the Flying Disc Museum is online. It's virtual. You can look up any disc. Give a shout out to Gary Perlberg. He has a Flying Disc Consortium, which is a collector's page. You can join on Facebook. So I'll give you a shout out, and you can all say you know me, and Pearl will let you in. But he has the most amazing collection of Frisbees, him personally. But the way he runs his page, he invites us all to share our disc. It's the most active group I'm in. Matter of fact, I'm not active in any group except for the collecting page. Yeah. And Pearl goes, oh, I want to know about Mars platter today, or show me your red disc. And he just gives shouts out. And so now if you go on his webpage and look at photos, you can see every disc. So we have all those resources. They're not in a building like in the old days.
Well, they don't have to be anymore. I just think it would be nice to have a place that people could visit to tangibly appreciate stuff. That'd be nice.
Well, I think we're trying to get a real museum, a collector's museum, but I think we need traveling shows. I think we need
for sure.
I think
road
we
shows.
need that RV that has that showcase of that traveling with the NT Tours. What I think we need. Any sponsors out there want to help me put my collection
Sean
on
Sinclair,
the road?
I know you're watching. Write that down. Tell everybody that needs to know about it. That's an idea. And Mo, and everybody else.
Traveling Ringling
Eric
Brothers. Circus of Frisbees.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, I do. I have thought about that, having a mobile museum, because tournaments are so mobile. That's where you need to be at, not at some brick building downtown.
That's how you get more eyes on it.
You need to be at tournament sites, yeah.
And it's such an awesome idea, too. And I think another good thing to do, and something that I will suggest if I get elected to the PDGA board, I think if we can take a list of all the states that do not currently have a Disc Sports Hall of Fame and actually create some sort of a comprehensive resource package for the people in leadership in disc sports in those states to actually get the ball rolling on having that. I think that'd be good too.
And there may be a little of that out there. I heard some people talking about they went and got resources, so we can check into that. I'll throw this little curveball out there. In Tennessee, do you have the Frisbee Hall of Fame, or you have the Disc Golf Hall of Fame?
We don't have either, as far as I know. I mean, like,
are they not one and the same as
I
well?
would
Not
say,
a subgroup of the other?
I mean, whatever we call it, I think it should encompass everything.
Yeah, I do
especially.
too. I do too.
I mean,
well, I think it should cover. I mean, I wanted to cover everything because I want the early days. Like you said, golf wasn't even the first event.
Flying Disc Hall of Fame or
Frisbee Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Frisbee, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. I'm not hung up on the nomenclature, but
yeah. I was a Frisbee player way before Whammo started forcing us to say disc.
Well, and if you and
so I didn't.
If you and Ken and Steve and all those guys still say Frisbee, I'm going with what you say. I know my place. I will not argue with that.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, disc golf is what it is. But I play Frisbee because I play all of them. So
yeah. Something I've noticed that's really interesting is like when you talk to people that have picked up disc golf in the last 10 years, and then you talk to people that have started playing it 30 years ago, the way that people say it, it's like you say, yeah, we play disc golf. But the guys that played it 30 years ago say, yeah, we play disc golf. Disc golf. Because the golf is okay. It's just disc, but it's golf.
Well,
golf.
the very first thing that I wrote, I think in my freshman paper, I wrote about FOF. I mean, I'm like, why don't we call it frisbee golf, FOF? And I've heard other people use that, but it never caught on. It's like
Frolfing, Jerry.
Yeah,
it's golf with a frisbee.
Yeah, right. I love that. And Fred, the little tidbit, I'm sure he mentioned this in the book, but Fred said, I hated the damn word frisbee.
Yeah, I bet, man. Especially after it caught on.
Yeah, because he named it something else. The Whammo came up with the word frisbee. He's like, I hated that word. He goes, until those checks started coming in. Then it kind of eased the pain.
Yeah, trade-offs.
Yeah,
trade-offs.
Yeah.
Joel, thank you.
Thank you.
This has been real. This has been fun.
I appreciate it.
This has been real fun.
All right, thanks.
We're going to do it again.
I appreciate that. It's good. I'll think of a real story.
No, I think this has been a lot of stories and all one big story. But yeah, shout out to Kim. Thank her for letting me borrow you this evening. Shout out to frisbeeguru.com. You guys go check that out. What is it, the Frisbee Consortium, the Collectors Consortium?
Frisbee, the Flying Disc Consortium.
Flying Disc Consortium on Facebook.
Gary Perlberg.
Gary Perlberg. Any other last things you want to put on the airwaves?
That's it. Let's get that Hall of Fame going this winter.
Kim Birdie, I'm coming. We're going to talk about this. We're going to pull the pin out of that we put in there 2 years ago. We're going to get this thing moving.
Oh, that one. I was talking about the FPA one.
Oh, your Hall of Fame. Yeah, that Hall of Fame too. Hey, FPA.
The first one I was voted into.
Get hip with the program. This guy needs his mini, and he needs a full size poster.
They'll be there, but I'm
cardboard cutouts, fat heads.
Pandemic, yikes!
Dude, I want a Joel Rogers fat head for the wall of the studio for sure. All right, everybody.
All right, thanks, Will. We appreciate it.
No, thank you, Joel.
All right.
Ladies, gentlemen, word salad. This has been episode 35 of the Last Cash Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, rate, and review, and we will catch you on the course or on the Frisbee beach.
Low tide at the lowest shores, baby.
Low tide and no side? Sounds nice.
Ocean side is nice, too.
I'll have that. Good night, everybody. Good night, Neverland.
Let the bass kick.